Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what I call the WodCAST podcast, probably the best podcast in the podcast world. I don't know why I'm talking like that. We all know what this is. If you're a first-time listener, it's a podcast about health, fitness, strength, conditioning, all kinds of stuff like that, but mostly CrossFit. Why? Because Greg Glassman told me it's the best type of fitness there is, and I listen. No, it's a good way to cross-train for sports and all kinds of other stuff. So if you're looking to get stronger, better, more elite, that's what we like to use, elite, that word. No, it's a really, really good, comprehensive way of exercising, get yourself strong, fit, flexible, mobile, powerful, combination of everything. All the stuff you need to lead a healthier, better life. This is the show. I'm your host, Eddie Ift. I'm not really good at CrossFit. I'm actually not good at all. Maybe at one point I was pretty average. I was like really good at being like average. I'm a really kind of medium type guy. Everything I wear, I'm average male height. All my clothes are medium. I'm white. I'm just like, I just couldn't be more average. And CrossFit, I love it, and I talk about it a lot. So that's what this show is. If you like CrossFit but like to talk about it more, I've actually been doing the CrossFit main site workouts lately. Anybody else do those? Am I the only one? I did the push press. It was strict press 1-1-1-1-1. Then it was into push press 3-3-3-3-3. Then into push jerk 5-5-5-5-5. And then it wasn't enough. I'm sorry, Castro, Dave. Had to go out and do more, so I went for a run. I'm going to be training to do the Ironman this year, so I'm going to do a whole different kind of training. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this and strength train, and also I want to incorporate sort of what I do CrossFit-wise into endurance training. Had some pretty good, interesting guests on the show, so I might use one of them as a coach. Still got to get myself a bike from Specialized and get out there on the road, hit the road. I think the bike's going to be my sticking point, riding 112 miles. Enough about me. People get mad when I talk about me. They always write that in reviews. All he does is talk about himself. Well, that's because no one else, no one in my house listens to me. My wife and kids don't listen to me, so this is what I do. Got here on the deck. I'm out on the deck right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. Out on the deck by the creek. There's a creek over there. I wish I could show you the creek. I guess I could. I don't want to screw up all the wires. Creek's flowing. The mountains are runneth overeth with watereth. It's going down the mountain, the creek. Sometimes it floods and we get in there with boogie boards and make idiots of ourselves while all the neighbors yell, "You're gonna get botulism!" Some neighbor was on the bridge. She's like, "You're all gonna get diseases." And I don't know, maybe it was me that screamed back, "Go back to your bubble." I just hate that when people just they just want to burst your fun. You're having a good time, and they've got to somehow find some way that it's not fun anymore, that you're going to die of some horrendous disease. It's called COVID. I don't know what I'm talking about. I do want to talk about this. People that support this show, I still have no name for them. When I had talking shit, they were the shitheads. When I had the Bingle Bus, they were the Bingleberries. I've never come up with a name for WodCAST fans. If you listen to the show a lot, I wish I had a name for you. Like WodCasters is terrible. I don't know. Somebody help me out. Send me it. I'll send you a Maya Pucks and a leopard claw maybe. I've done that before in a contest. I got the leopard claw right here. That's not the leopard claw. It's in its sheath. It's in its condom. There's the leopard claw. We give this right here, this leopard claw. It's awesome. Look how it says WodCAST podcast on it. And it's got MWOD on it. We give this made in the USA. We give this thing. Look, this thing is so strong. Use it to scrape any adhesions. I always go right to the elbow, but you can use it anywhere. Use it on your neck, on your traps, on your, you name it. Just don't use it on your lips or, oh great. My neighbors are chainsawing while I'm doing the intro. That's good. It's background noise you kind of need. I hope you can't hear the chainsawing. All right, guys, we get it. They had an oak tree fall down, and they got to get rid of it. Oh, this sucks. Okay, so what I was going to tell you is we give a myopux or a leopard claw. I don't have my myopux to show you because I gave it to a friend that has a disc fragmentation in their back, and I was having them use it for some pain relief. You can use it as a TENS unit. You can also use it as an electronic muscle stimulator. If you know what an electronic muscle stimulator is, they're awesome to expedite the inflammatory process. Basically get you back in the gym much quicker. They rehab any kind of injury. You want to have this. You should have it in your arsenal. You should have one of these. This is what I tell everybody. You should have a leopard claw, you should have a Theragun, and you should have a myopux, and also some voodoo floss. That's and a lacrosse ball. That's it. And then you're ready to go. You get yourself back in shape all the time, fix all your injuries. But you definitely need a myopux and a leopard claw. If you donate $5 a month to our Patreon at WodCastPodcast.com/Patreon or Patreon.com/WodCast, you can get yourself one of these if you win. And we have the winner this week. This week, the winner is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. No, remember him? He was a wrestler. My dogs are barking now. My wife made me give up my studio. This is really good. I have a new Patreon, and I really liked his name because it sounds like he's a superhero. Congratulations, Blake Johnson. Blake, you sound like you work at the Daily Reporter, and at night you fly through the skies and use a leopard claw. Well, you're going to be using a leopard claw now, Blake Johnson, because you are our new winner of the leopard claw and the myopux. And because you're giving $5 a month, you get to hear the 5th episode. I just posted the 30, 40, 50 with Bobby and Hunter. And if you donate $5 a month to Patreon, you get a 5th episode every month. 5th episode. So 5 every month. That's $1 an episode. Can't beat that. You can't beat that. So please join up, help out the show. I haven't worked in a year. Let's be honest. And we're not looking like we're going back anytime soon. So this is my life, people. I do this show. And you can support. You can, if you've got no cash, just go on to iTunes, do a little review. I love the reviews. Rate, review, and comment. Please give me 5 stars. Don't be mean. Some people are mean. I had a mean one recently. Last week I read a mean one. Let's see if there's a new ones, and they're a little nicer. There's always some nice ones, but every once in a while I get a mean one, and I'm just like, why you gotta be such a dick? Let's see. Oh, here's a funny one. Belly Upper said, drinking game. Every time Eddie or a guest says Hunter, take a drink. Seriously, this podcast is fun to listen to. Very informative, humble guests, always inspiring. Episode 370 with Gary Reinl and episode 389 with Rebecca Rush are life-changing. Thanks, WodCast Podcast. Well, thank you, Belly Upper. I really appreciate that. Hashtag still listening. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all the people, John Ware, Gordon, who else? Someone else. Who was I thinking of? Somebody who sent the... who was it? Somebody sent something to Bert that there's no way he can't respond. Bert Kreischer I've been trying to get to do. It wasn't even my idea. But I don't know how it all started. Somebody said, oh, Gordon, or oh, Hunter, you think you're... or not Hunter, but Bert Kreischer, you claim to be this fit guy, blah, 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 EF would crush you. I don't think it was Gordon Wagner that started it. I forget who it was. But Gordon Wagner's been relentless with hammering Bert, and we've gotten nothing back from him. Nothing. I'm going to text him today and be like, what's your deal, dude? You can at least respond. But we're trying to get him to sign up for the CrossFit Open. It's 3 workouts. Just do it against me. I hate the Open, and I'll actually do it just to beat Bert. And I will crush him. I will double his score. I mean, like, if he wants to get a bet going, I'll streak. I'll streak like the streaker at the Super Bowl while I'm doing the workout to show him how badly I can beat him. He's not even close to the fittest comedian. Okay. Anyway, moving on. And then I just saw Andrew Schultz talking about surfing, another comedian. I didn't know there was another surfer comedian other than Daniel Tosh, Lachlan Patterson, me. I didn't know there were any others. There's a few. Joe Prano. Oh, well, anyway, moving on to the Bert Kreischer thing. Yeah, you guys can bother him on his Instagram, on his tweets, anything. He won't respond. You know why? Because he knows. He knows I'll beat him, and I'll beat him bad. And he just doesn't. There's nothing to gain from it. So he's a fake. He's a fraud. He's a charlatan. Let's see. Today's guest is no charlatan at all. Today's guest could possibly be the best CrossFitter in the world right now. Didn't make the games last year, but that was because of the weird format. Now that Mat Fraser's out of the picture, we're all wondering who's going to be the best. And I think I'm going to put my money on Patrick Vellner. Patrick Vellner is he's got the years, he's got the wisdom, he's got the strength, he's got it all, experience, and he's coming back and he's healthy and he's strong. And look out for Patrick Vellner this year. He is our guest. I interviewed him before the Mat Fraser announcement. That's why we don't talk about it at all. But we had a great time, great talk. He's a great dude. Great dude. I find him very interesting. I'm pretty much looking for interesting people to talk to. I don't care how good you are. It pays to be good, but I like interesting. That's about it. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Really, truly, from the bottom of my farts. I love you guys. I love the support. I'm so glad you've stuck with me through everything over the years. Can't believe we've almost 500 episodes of this. Check it out on YouTube. I'm trying to figure out how to make this popular on YouTube. I've worked my butt off I'm going to try to do better camera work, make it more exciting, whatever I can do. And today's episode is brought to you by Magic Spoon, which is maybe the most life-changing thing I've found. And I'm not joking. There's a couple things in my life recently that have been like life-changing. One of them is Magic Spoon. I'll talk about it later in the show. And enjoy this episode. That is it. Oh, hey, I'm doing comedy next week. I'll be in Scottsdale. Come out to see. I think they only sell half the tickets. The room, because of social distancing, they only sell half the tickets. So get your tickets. Come out. Please don't get. I'm sorry, I'm not doing meet and greets after the show or anything like that. I'm going straight back to where I'm staying, and I don't fuck around. So I hope you enjoy the show. All my new material, all about the pandemic and everything. I'm excited to start performing again, and that's it. So enjoy the episode. All right, so we're starting, and before I even hit record, I took a dig at Armin, and I wish I had put that on. See?
There you go. I'm sure you'll get more chances.
Yeah, I will. I love Armin to death, who's having a baby, everyone. Armin Hammer. There's going to be a smaller Hammer.
So, are they really? Wow.
Yeah.
Someone once told me, have they announced it?
Yeah, they announced it on Instagram, which I think is official.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if it's out there in the public sphere, then that's fine.
I thought someone
once told me you don't announce someone else's pregnancy.
I agree with that, and I think I've done it before. I just wish Armin had kind of called me for some like fatherly advice, like, "Hey, you've done it twice." Nothing, not even a hey. It just I have to read it on Instagram. So thanks, Armin. Good luck. I hope
it's where we get our news nowadays, anyways.
Yeah, hope it all goes well. If you need any advice, I'm not here for you. I'll put it on Instagram. But congratulations, Armin. Welcome to the No Sleep crew, which is why I'm almost like I was 2 minutes late with you. I literally just woke up.
Oh wow, attaboy.
I was on 2 hours sleep last night with dealing with children, and I'm in a rat killing contest with Pat Barber.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You need to tell me more about that now.
Go on Pat Barber's Instagram. He's got a lot of rats, and I tried to be a good person and I don't kill the rats. I live catch them, and then my daughter and I go release them at my friend's backyard so that they go into his house. And he catches me doing it. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And but I have this one rat that has destroyed my attic, and I tried the live traps, and it wouldn't go in. And so I was like, "Sorry, dude, it's time to die." And just as I was about to kill it, I saw Pat Barber doing it. I gave him a lecture. I'm like, "Don't kill them. There's live traps, blah, blah." And he's like, no, these need to die. And so the next thing you know, after this thing destroyed my attic, but this rat laughed at me for like 10 days. Like I put every single kind of bait on this thing, and it would take the bait. Like it knew how to intricately remove the bait off the trap and get away with it. So then I had to get a camera. I'm like, I got to see what kind of beast is living in my attic that is able to not set rat traps off. And then sometimes it would set them off and still get the food. So then
it's like Caddyshack.
I swear to God, I became Bill Murray. I was having like conversations with it. I'd go up in the attic. I'm like, "Oh, tonight's your night, little man." And and so then I put a Nest camera up there. I didn't care. I took it out of my baby's room. I'm like, you're a year and a half. You can deal. I got to go kill rats.
Priorities, eh?
So then I got to see how it was doing. This guy, I found this guy online who's like, literally like, you guys are like internet famous. All you CrossFitters have crazy, crazy huge followings. It's like, it's insane. Like the comedy world where guys are on TV like all the time don't have near the followings you guys have. It's weird. And
yeah, it is weird.
And then I found this guy that catches rats on YouTube, and he makes you guys look not famous. Like this guy has like, each video will get like 20 million views. 20
yeah,
million.
The internet's a crazy place. You find your niche, and you live there.
So this guy's got like 20 million views, and he gave me a guarantee. Hot glue gun down dog food onto the little tab, and there's no way the rat will get it away, and so then I had to screw the rat traps down to the floor, because they take the rat traps away with them sometimes, which I've had happen, and then they like die somewhere else, and then they smell or they get eaten by other rats or whatever it is. So I screw them down to the floor. This dude last night didn't just hit one trap. He hit one, and then like the back of them went into the other one. He got a double.
It's got to like slice them in half. Okay, wait. So when you're saying they carry them off, like this is after gluing the dog food onto the trap.
Yeah.
So it's eating the dog food or getting caught in the trap and then running off with the trap attached to it.
With the trap attached.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you fucking deserve that dog food at that point.
So, but I mean, today just feels like such a victory. I've never like, I just feel like, because he had won, this rat had won maybe 10 nights in a row. It was getting that bad. And last night was a victory, and he's done.
Well, I hope you subscribe to that YouTube channel.
Oh my God. The guy is hilarious. He's so creepy. He had this one video where he says, set up a bowl with oil in it, and then the rats will climb into the bowl, and then they can't get out because they're too slippery. Mm-hmm. And he said, like, put peanut oil in. And then he took them afterwards. He caught 7 rats one night in his barn. He took them out, and he put them in a bath of like Dawn dishwashing soap and cleaned them. And he's like, I'm going to keep these as my pets now. And I was like,
oh, I thought he was just going to go like the other direction where like, now that they're all oiled up, you just throw them right in the fryer. And like, I'm a guy who runs a YouTube channel that's like based around how do you like catch vermin, and like, I wasn't expecting the humane route at the end there. That was a nice little left turn.
Shows the difference between your brain and mine. You're like,
yeah.
Oh, fry them up and eat them. I have this sick brain. I'm like, oiled up. What do you do with oiled up rats? Where do you shove them?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I do.
They're good to go.
Yeah, I did read about a guy that did that in the state of Washington, and you're up near there, right? Aren't you like, you're sort of
BC?
A
little bit north of there. Yeah, I'm like I'm on Vancouver Island, so I'm like just off the coast. Like we're the southern point of the island's like below the Canada-US border, so we're basically like in the Pacific Northwest US.
Oh,
Like we're pretty much level.
I've seen that. Isn't there a part of the island that actually is in the United States? So you've got to go to Canada to get to it.
There's chains of islands around there. Like the lowest point of the island is lower than the top point of the U.S. Like the U.S. border is here, and then the edge of the island is like down here. So it's like it's lower latitude wise than the Canada-U.S. border, but it's like.
I think I've read about this though. There is a part of one of the islands that you have to go into Canada to then go to the United States to get to it. Some little island. And Vancouver Island.
There's lots of ferries hopping around, so I'm not sure how they manage a lot of that all the time in terms of like customs and stuff. But I'm sure that there's specific points of entry that you're supposed to go through, because you can't just like hop off an island any old place and then just like show up in the U.S.
I also just saw there's a ski resort on Vancouver Island that is
Mount Washington.
That is like the coolest little, like they have like 3 chairlifts and volunteers run it, and it's like the ski resort. I just sent it to a buddy of mine. I was like, have you ever skied here? Because he's from Seattle and he's a pro skier. I was like, have you ever skied here? This place looks so cool, but like they say you can get like stuck there, and it's like everybody...
they're actually really well known for getting a ton of snow at Mount Washington. Like they have some of the, when they get dumped on, just because of kind of how it is out this way, when there's a lot of precipitation in the winter, but it's pretty mild. Like you don't get the really cold weather that kind of stops it from snowing. You really get the big fat snows when it comes. So there's times where if you're up there, and it gets a good dump, like you can't leave because the roads everything's shut down. So it can be a snow trap up there, but it depends. And then it can just as easily, if it gets too warm, it can rain it all out, right?
Did you grow up on the island?
No, I grew up, I've kind of been all over Canada. I grew up in Alberta, which is like,
I know it,
the next province in from BC. And then I went to school out east. Alberta
explains your manliness. That's
yeah.
When I go to Alberta,
Maybe,
the men are just bigger and like beefier, and their hands are thicker. And when I would go to CrossFit in Alberta, when I do shows up there in Edmonton at that mall, that giant mall, that place is terrifying.
West, that is hilarious. It's like it's old now, right? And I feel like whenever we go there as when you're younger, I remember going there as like a, like 18-year-old or something like that, and being there in a day at some point. And it's like it was built in a weird way where it was constantly added onto. So it feels kind of like a slum, where like there's legit back alleys in the mall. And you're like, so it's really funny. Like if you walk around and you pay attention, you're like, oh, like you go from being in a good neighborhood to a bad neighborhood, like within the mall. And it's like, it's really funny. Yeah. I've been there in years, but it's not.
For the people listening, it's the biggest mall in the world. I think
it was at one point. It's not anymore.
Oh, sure. Really? But, are you sure?
Yeah, I know they built a bigger one even south of there on the way to Calgary, and then I think there's a couple in Dubai now that are much bigger, like the Emirates Mall, and one other one out there. So it was in its heyday, and that's what I mean. Like it's long since been its heyday, and there's still it's a huge mall. You can get anything you'd ever need there.
Anything.
So occasionally you go up there and go for a shop, but it's funny. Yeah, I remember being there as a kid, and like there's a water park and like a theme park in there, and there's lots of fun stuff to do, and it was like this pretty magical place. And then being there as an adult, you're kind of like, whew.
Yeah. I remember I was on the phone with my wife, and I walk around a corner, and I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, what? I'm like, I think I just went into that cave where the Goonies found the ship. And she's like, what? I'm like, there's a pirate ship in front of me right now. She's like, She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, there's a giant pirate ship in the middle of the mall. And she's like, I'm like, hold on, I'm going to FaceTime you. She's like, oh my God, you're in the Goonies.
Show us or something. Like over years, the things have kind of changed a bit, but there's lots of crazy stuff in there. And just imagine, like you're as a kid, young youths wandering around the malls aimlessly is like not great news anyways. And I just imagine that on a bigger scale. I just feel like, you got teenagers running around rampant in there, and it's just,
Well, they have the people that own that mall, the like billionaire that owns a mall in Minneapolis, and the same comedy club in Edmonton has one in Minneapolis, and so I work for both of them. The one in
Okay.
Minneapolis, that mall has a amusement park in the middle with like 7 roller coasters. Not like
Mhm.
not like 1 or 2, like 7 different roller coasters, and it's like the suicide capital of Minnesota. Like when people go to kill
Oh, no
themselves.
way.
Yeah, they go and like throw themselves off the top level. And it's
Of the
just,
mall. That's not the Mall of America, is it?
that is the Mall of America.
It is the Mall of America.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a creepy malls in general. I don't like them. And whenever I have to go work there, I'm like, oh no. And it's usually the club will always book me. Like comedy's better in winter than it is summer.
Right.
People don't want to go out in the summer. So sit inside.
I
So
feel like we're probably the opposite here. It's like people are hunkered down in the winter. Not on the island, but in Canada in general.
So they send me to these places like in the dead of winter, like Minneapolis. Like a couple years ago, I worked like January, and it was like you're cold, when it gets like crazy,
Right, yeah.
like Alberta cold. But I was
Yeah,
in Minneapolis,
Minnesota is basically Canada.
and I had to walk, like the hotel's connected to the mall, so I never had to go outside for a whole like 5 days I was there. I would just walk, and I
Is
didn't.
it underground or is it like
No, there's like
overground
tunnels. It's like a habit trail. It looks like
Okay.
like giant gerbils should be running around, and
Right, yeah.
and I would just go from my hotel to the comedy club and back and just stay inside and go eat in the mall. And it was really weird, like 0 vitamin D. And I would work out in the gym in the hotel. And then one night I was wearing a T-shirt at my show. And I leave and I might have had some drinks or something. I was like, I got to go back to the hotel. And they locked the doors of the couple hallways. And I had to go outside and walk to... And it was like doing Wim Hof. I had to like prepare myself to go out into the cold. It was brutal. I was like screaming. I think I filmed it. I'm like screaming as I'm running through like negative 40 degrees with the T-shirt on.
Nice.
But here, you grew up in Alberta, moved to the East Coast then?
Yeah, went to university in Montreal, and then I did my professional school in Toronto. So I kind of spent...
Uh-oh, we got to pause. Uh-oh. Are you back?
Oh, I got you back. Yeah.
Okay, you did. All I got was you did your professional school in Montreal. Was that at McGill?
Yeah, so it was my undergraduate was at McGill, and then I did professional school in Toronto.
What was your what was undergrad and professional? What'd you do?
I did my undergrad in kinesiology,
Okay.
and then I did chiropractic degree, a doctor of chiropractic degree in Toronto. And so that's like, we moved to the island about a year and a half ago. And so the kind of 10 years prior to that, almost, I had been kind of Eastern Canada in general.
Do you practice chiropractor at all? Like, are you practicing one at all?
Yeah, I was working on them today.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah. What do you say about, did you ever see Rogan like go off on chiropractors?
No, I mean, I'm sure I know all the arguments. One of the hard things in that field is there's not good regulation. And even the educational system is a bit weird because it's kind of private. So we need better regulation within the profession, frankly. So you get a lot of, in Canada, we've only got one English school and one French school. So it's a little bit tighter.
Mm-hmm.
But the US has like a ton of institutions, and they're all varying degrees on a scale of like, research based versus kind of like art history based, where they're like, we're teaching kind of the traditions of the profession from its origins and whatever. Whereas, the profession is moving more towards a kind of rehab oriented style and, maintaining some of the old things that we do, but it is very much moving in that direction. Most rehab science and therapeutic, like conservative therapy, is all kind of converging a little bit, physio, chiro, all that stuff. So, more institutions that are developing research and kind of creating new research are teaching that way, and they're producing those kind of therapists. But there are some that just don't. And then there's people who get out of school and then they join a practice and they have mentors who are practicing a different way. and then they start to practice that way and whatever. So it's really hard to control. And so I think that we're starting to phase through some of the more traditional old school kind of practitioners are starting to age out a little more. So we've got better therapists coming up with more, research oriented approach. And then also on the other side of that is one of the biggest disputes in the past long time is between medical doctors and chiropractors, and medical doctors kind of like poo-pooing on what we're doing, that certain things are unsafe, and certain things certainly are based on the research we should do less of for sure. But I think there's a younger generation now that is again looking at the research and being like, oh, we just got told by some 60-year-old doc that, oh no, you can't go to the chiropractor because they'll always adjust your neck and you'll get a stroke. And it's like, okay, that's not really accurate based on the data that's available in research. So now there's a shift in that profession as well, where now we're getting more deeply rooted in what we're meant to be doing. And it's like, hey, we're good at musculoskeletal joint work and conservative approaches to like conservative care. So most, surgical interventions for things like orthopedics, whatever it is, to be a surgical candidate, you need to try X amount of time of conservative therapy and blah, blah, blah. So like we're a resource for that kind of stuff. So it's just like kind of finding your lane. There's so many different avenues in healthcare nowadays that it's like the hardest thing is finding where you belong and then kind of making sure that you're not stomping on toes. So I think the last many years has been a lot of people trying to like, branch out and figure out where they can take root. But now I think we're getting a little bit better at that, and we're kind of grooved into where we are. And then it's just like, there's no sense like reaching for something and trying to treat something that's a little bit outside your scope. Like if you develop good relationships with the doctors and the physios in your area, like you can get people the help they need. And it's a little bit easier, I think, in Canada because there's more, with healthcare and stuff like that, it's a little easier. Yeah. And it's not, you don't feel like you're necessarily like losing, your income by putting them to someone else. That's
a really good point that needs to be brought up in the argument for what goes wrong with our healthcare system, that people do feel like the doctors feel this pressure to say, I can handle that, instead of feeling like, because they're like, oh, I'm going to lose my money and I need to keep this business going. I've gone to chiropractors and physical therapists, and for the most part, I've had the same treatment done pretty much.
That probably means you saw a good therapist.
Yeah.
I think that the way you get taught in and out of school is like a little bit differently. Like your scope is a little bit off center from each other, which is good. But 10 years out of school, if people have been doing their continuing education and keeping up with research, like I said, a lot of overlap.
Yeah. Yeah. I never really get the adjustments. Probably because I've never really gone that far, but I have. My one buddy is a physical therapist, and he'll come to my shows, and I'll be like, oh my God, my ankle's like, and he'll just be like, give me your ankle, and he'll be like, and I'll be like, wait, whatever you did that worked, and I'm like, what'd you do? And he's like, I don't know. And he's have you ever seen him? He's the Move You guy. You know the guy.
He's the what? Sorry,
Did you ever see the Instagram Move You?
I think I've seen it before. I don't know if I follow it closely,
they're really funny guys that do. They look like they're gay lovers. I make fun of them because they look like they're gay lovers. Because the one guy never has his shirt on, and the other guy's always like going, and here on his body, if you notice. And
right.
But they kind of just split up. They went their separate ways, and now the one guy that I'm buddies with does it with his wife, and she's now the hot model.
Okay.
And but they've like millions of followers on Instagram, and he's really good at understanding the body and letting people in on his information. And
that's good. I think that's a big part of our role. It's like, as conservative therapists, physios, chiros, all that kind of stuff. I think that education is one of the biggest tools we have, and like trying to help people understand things that are happening, and maybe that you're not damaged or broken, but ways that you can help to remedy some issues you're having. And there's a lot, like there's great stuff like even TikTok, like YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram, all that stuff. There's like people can create pretty good, and if you're good at it, like these guys sound like they're great. Like it's fast and digestible and not overly complicated. Maybe taking concepts that are a little more complicated and just making them very easy to understand. And then yeah, you can help people a lot. And this is one of the problems that like one of the reasons why it's good that we have kind of improving communication with the medical field is that like, they don't have 15-20 minutes to spend with every patient to like explain certain things, and show them exercises and, work on different things, but we kind of do just because of the business model. So you can actually like, yeah, you help each other out a lot more, and you like, we take strain off of them as well, instead of seeing things that they don't have the time to see that aren't life threatening or whatever. Right. So it's good that those sorts of things, like those Instagram, YouTube things, they're great resources.
Do your clients, when they come to you, do they know? Do you have like pictures on the wall? Like, look, I'm like the fittest guy in the world. Like, look at me. Look at that. Do you see
No,
that picture right there?
some of them know, but I don't have anything kind of in the office
Nothing.
to indicate anything about it. No,
Not
it
even.
was just kind of
Come on.
funny
Not
because
even like a little medal in the corner. Like, look at me over there.
no, I don't. But it's really funny because I share offices with like we have a few treatment rooms, and I share them with a couple of the other guys in the office. And one of the other chiros was actually an Olympic paddler. So he's got a bunch of medals and like Olympic stuff and things like that around in the office. And so I get asked all the time, like, if these are my medals, and I'm like, no, they're not. Like mine are at home, right? But no, it's kind of funny. I actually, even at home, I don't have anything really set up. We moved in August, and I had to move back from the eastern side of Canada to the west. I feel like all my stuff is like in boxes. So maybe one day I'll make a little display or something. But
I
right
had
now it's
I had a buddy who moved into my building when I lived in New York City. He moved into the ground floor, and so I nicknamed him Ground Floor Bob. And he moved in, and I went to junior high with this kid, and like 25 years later, whatever, he moves to New York City, and he's like, hey man, I'm moving to New York. And I was like, cool. And he's like, let's party. And he moved into my building because he like looked at all these places, and finally, like after he looked at them with me, he walked home to my place, and he saw an apartment for rent in the ground floor. He moved in with all these boxes. I forget where he came from. Austin, Texas. I think he moved from Austin. He'd always get fired from like a company, so he got fired from Austin. He got hired in New York. Moves in, doesn't empty any of his boxes, lives there for 2 years, and just like would party.
just waiting to get fired or what?
And he would just party with me all the time. Like wherever I would go on tour, he would come with me, and he'd be like, where are you working this weekend, Eddie? And I'm like, oh, I'm in Syracuse. He's like, weird, I'm in Binghamton, I'll switch my flight. He would just like come to my gig and tell his bosses that he went, and sold mutual funds or whatever he did. But so he got fired and got transferred to like Las Vegas or something. And he was like, I made fun of him every day. I'm like, you ever going to move out of your boxes? And like moving day, when he's got to leave, he's like putting the boxes on the truck, and he's like, and you made fun of me.
It's like 2 years, dude.
He's like, never had to pack back up. Like, you're a weirdo. You lived out of a box.
I mean, you know what? Like, if he's moved a lot of times, it is annoying.
The worst.
So in certain respect, I get it.
I won't.
But like,
listen. I would never divorce my wife ever, just because I don't want to move. I will stay with her.
2 years. 2 years is a long time to just sort of feel like you're living out of a bag.
If my wife said to me, "Hey, I want a divorce," I'd be like, "All right, but can we still live together?"
Like, think about all the work it's going to be.
I was like, I'll build an addition to the house. I'll live over there, but just let me keep my shit here. I don't want to move.
Like even building the other extra place is less work than trying to extract yourself completely from that house.
Yeah. Sometimes like moving's harder than a CrossFit workout by far. I would rather do Murph than a move.
Well, yeah, it just drags on. And it always feels like you get a handle on it, and you're like, all right, we're my fiance thinks it's so funny because whenever we move or we help people move regularly and we do stuff, I always make a point of being like, nice, we're almost there, like we're almost done, and we're like, we're not at all, and it like drives her crazy. But it's like you always feel like that. You start doing a room and you're like, oh, like there's not that much in here, and then you start pulling out drawers or emptying things, and like there's just it's like stuff multiplies, right? But yeah, that always like we start the next room. It's like, all right, cool, we're almost there. We're almost there. Like 4 hours later, like, oh, almost there. She's like, I fucking hate you.
That's why when friends ask me, they're like, hey, will you help me move? I think that's the rudest thing to ask someone. And whenever friends ask me, they're like, hey, will you help me move? I'm like, no, I'll just give you $200 to hire some illegal aliens that will do a better job than I will because you just ruined my day. Like that's going to ruin a day of I have a joke on stage that I've been doing lately. I say lately. I've done 4 shows since March 10th. I've done 4 shows. I've done one on the beach, one at a backyard pool party, one I was on a loading dock in North Carolina and the people were in the parking lot, and then one in a flower shop that was like an illegal speakeasy. I used to do 4 to 7 shows a night, and I've done 4 since March 10th.
Oof.
But
were those like? I feel like, did you get paid for those ones? That loading dock one sounds like it wasn't even consensual.
I won't tell you what I usually
like you're just
make.
out there yelling at people.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. I can't tell you what I used to make, but these are like, hey, we can give you a couple $100. It's like, it's so humiliating. The money's just like, whatever, like let's give it to a charity. Like money's money, but it's frustrating. But the thing is, I have this new joke that I love doing about how I want to start my own workout program where everyone meets at a certain location every day. You meet me at my truck, and what I'm going to do is on the clock. It's like a 4 time. You're going to go into the house and you're going to pull out all the furniture and you're going to put it in this truck, and then we're going to hit stop. That's the first part of the workout. Then we take a rest and we move to the next location, and then we're going to take all the furniture and we're going to put it out and put it in this other house, and then for time, and then we hit stop, and that's the workout. And it's called Move Fit, and it's $250 a month. You pay me. Because it's like, I was just talking about how, like, I don't know how many CrossFits do it. I very rarely see it, but the flipping tires. And it's like one time I was at a gym that had the tire flipping, and I looked across the street and there was a tire store. And I was like, I could go over there and get paid to do this. To just move the tires around for them, and they would pay. I'm paying to move tires.
Oh yeah, no, I know. It is funny too, though. Our gym here in the island has been really great. Like in the summer, a few people moved, and the people, we have like kind of a Facebook group where people kind of put things up, especially during quarantine. It's been nice because people will get each other motivated on there. But there was a couple of times in the summer where like someone's moving and it's like, hey, can I interest anybody in coming and giving a hand for like a little bit, or I need somebody with a truck or whatever. And like we did the same when we went and helped out a couple times. And then when we moved, we're like, hey, if we can get a few bodies for like an hour on Saturday, that'd be sweet. And like 20 people showed up, and like this whole move took like 45 minutes
because everybody's like, where's the biggest dresser? I got it.
Yeah, right. Everybody's like motivated, and it's like, want to get in there and like get as many loads as possible.
Let me put my knee sleeves on for this one.
Oh, it was amazing. And we were like, I like didn't even have to do anything. We show up. By the time I drove to the next place, got there, and all of the trucks were unloaded and everything was like in the house. We're like, oh, like I guess we're done. So we had a few cases of beer for people and stuff, and I was like, this is sweet. I barely had to do anything.
That'd be a nice
I couldn't keep up at the top. I got the first place, I'm like trying to load up some boxes and things, and like I couldn't keep up with the people coming through. It was awesome. Those are the right kind of people to get.
That would be a nice thing to do is for CrossFit gyms to set up like a kind of like a thing like that where they'll help people in need that have to move and come in and do the moving service for them, like a
Yeah.
one day a month or something, because everybody be like, yeah, we'll get some exercise, I'll move some boxes, I'll carry, do some thrusters.
No, totally. Everybody was pumped.
Yeah,
And
it's a
they were
nice,
like,
it's a great idea. That makes a lot of sense. That would be,
so there you go. That's like a marriage of your idea.
yeah, and it helps people. I like that because
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I've got horrible karma. I'm just a bad person. I killed a rat. I got to do something good. So we're gonna start MoveFit. Wait, I had a question. Are you the only CrossFitter that doesn't own a gym and has a job that makes the podium?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. That's made the podium in recent years, maybe. I think most, and I don't know how. I honestly don't know. I don't know how many of the rest of the field like fully own their gyms or are partners in it or what. There's a few that I know work outside of their training, but it just like I don't know what the trade-off is. Like, I don't work full time at the clinic. I work a few days a week and then I train and I do whatever and it's good. And to me, it's like I need to do that, I think, to keep myself kind of sane.
Right.
Even when I was in school, it was the same way. And I've just kind of always done that. It like I kind of get bored of things. And I feel like if I had to just work every day nonstop and that was all I thought about, I came home and I did my notes and I was like researching topics, it wouldn't get like boring, but it's nice to be able to turn the page and do something completely different that is not the same at all and requires 100% of your focus. And like that's why people have hobbies. And so when I was in school, that was how I kind of explained to them, like, I don't know, CrossFit's like kind of my hobby. It's very extreme, but when I'm doing that, it's really immersive and I don't think about school and I don't think about other things I have going on. I just do what I'm doing at the gym. And then when I leave, I can totally leave it there. And then I have to focus on school 100% because it's hard. So now I just do the same thing with work. And I don't think that there's a lot right now that are doing the same. And it's because the field's good.
I have to stop the show to talk to you about, I told you I had something that changed my life. And that thing is called Magic Spoon. It's Magic Spoon cereal. I've talked about it on the show before they were a sponsor. Now they're a sponsor, and I'm like, thank you, God. Why are they a sponsor? Because I went and found them. That never happens. Usually they come to us, but this is one of the ones where it was something I believed in wholeheartedly, and I said, hey, guys, let's partner together because I believe that you have such an awesome product that I want to push it on the show because I love it so much. We go through, I just asked my wife, we go through about 5 boxes of this a week. It's cereal. Tastes like sugar cereal. It's not sugar. When I was a kid, my closet was full. All the kids would come to my house on Fridays because my mom bought Lucky Charms, Crunch Berries, Count Chocula, every kind of sugar cereal there was, and we would just fill up bowls with milk. And I used to eat Frosted Flakes with sugar in the Frosted Flakes. I loved cereal so much. And I kind of miss that. Like eating healthy, I miss eating sweet cereal. And it was just such a staple in my life. Well, guess what? It's back. And it's back and it's healthy. And it's super healthy. I mean, it's like, it's not just not bad for you. It's good for you. It's really good for you. Magic Spoon cereal, I don't know how I found it, but I could talk to you about it for hours. They have so many different flavors. You get a variety pack. I'm going to see what they have in the variety pack. Let me just start off and tell you my favorite is the fruity. It reminds me of Fruit Loops, and it warms my heart. I do love the chocolate too. I like the peanut butter a lot. I mix the chocolate and peanut butter to make like a Reese's peanut butter cup kind of cereal. The frosted is really, really good. And there's a cinnamon one. I don't know if they still make the cinnamon. I love the cinnamon. I hope they still make it because I really like that too. I like them all. Let's start with how much protein is in a serving of Magic Spoon. 13 to 14 grams. And I believe a serving is like a cup. And when I make a bowl, I have like 2.5 cups. So you're looking at like way better than a protein shake. And we know that like it's made of whey protein, and whey is like the most digestible protein there is. So it's got 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. 4 grams. That's it. 140 calories a serving. It's keto friendly, gluten free, grain free, soy free, low carb, GMO free. Their variety pack has 4 flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter, which I mentioned all of those before. This is all they told me, but I want to tell you, like, they didn't tell me. I can't stop talking about it. The sweetener they use is a thing called allulose. And if you do your research on allulose, you'll be like, why aren't we all eating allulose all the time? Like, it could change the world. Like, we talk about all the health problems, all the metabolic problems. It's all from sugar, right? Well, boom, we found the solution, and Magic Spoon's using it. If you look at all the health benefits of using it, not just like, oh, you don't get the detractions of sugar. There are benefits from using allulose. And allulose is the sugar that's used in, it's the natural sugar that comes from maple syrup, figs, and I think dates. I don't quote me on that, but they are so sure, so confident that you're going to like this. They've got 100% happiness guarantee. So go eat it and then be like, I hate it. And they'll give you your money back. No questions asked. But guess what? If you're a decent person, you're going to be like, I loved it. There's no way I could just even ask for my money back. I loved it so much. I want to give them more money. I love it so much. Okay, so if you want to get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free Magic Spoon cereal, I have like a bowl for breakfast, a bowl before I go to bed. Go to magicspoon.com/WodCast and use the code WodCast to save $5. All right? So that was magicspoon.com/WodCast. I believe that'll work. And I also believe just using WodCast, the promo code will work. So either of those, magicspoon.com/WodCast or WodCast at the checkout. All right? God, please eat so much of this cereal because I want to work with Magic Spoon for the rest of my life so that they'll send me free cereal because I love it. Even if they don't send me it, I'm going to buy it. That's the longest ad I've ever done. That's how much I believe in Magic Spoon. It's purely magical. You just said it's kind of weird, and it's kind of weird to anyone who's a competitive CrossFitter. To anyone else in the world, it's kind of weird that someone would dedicate their entire life to just doing CrossFit. That seems kind of odd to people that like, wait, so you exercise for a living? And you're like, yeah. And you're successful? Yeah. And you make money? Yeah. And they're like, wow. So if you were like, oh yeah, I do this. I mean, think about all the Olympic athletes that have side jobs because the Olympics doesn't pay like any of those sports. Like, you know,
the Olympics doesn't pay anything. There's actually a great documentary about that. People pay to take part in the Olympics. Like you grind forever. Amateur sports circuit is brutal. My older brother was a freestyle skier for a number of years, and yeah, it's hard. Like you dedicate everything to it for a long time, and you live off like you get some karting funding and stuff like that, but it's not much. And if you're really good and you like get medals at the Olympics, you get outside sponsorship.
Yeah,
but you know the numbers aren't great.
No,
and I think that you're right that people. I think it's because people don't know enough about it, or they only know it in the context of like, you know, the classes at the gym and whatever. And they kind of think, how could you possibly do that and earn income? And it seems funny, but it's the same as, I don't know, if you just went and watched like rec league hockey or pick up basketball and someone's like, you do this and you make a living. It's like, yeah, but I don't really do that. Like it's a little bit different. And so it's sort of that people don't quite have the understanding of it. But if you do anything at like a really, really high level, it's not that weird to say, oh, you committed yourself really fully into this one area, became one of the best in that field, and you earn income doing it. It just seems funny when we say like, oh, it's just like it's exercising, general fitness.
Well, it's the same with stand up. I mean, 99% of the time when I meet people, they don't know who I am or what I do, and they go, "Oh, you're a comedian?" And I go, "Yeah." And they're like, the first question is like, "For a living?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And
tell me a joke.
Yeah, that's the next thing that you just want to go.
Yeah.
And but and I always feel it coming. And when I was younger, I used to feel insulted. I was like, yeah, I make a really good living. And and now that I'm more secure, I'm like, Yeah, it depends on what you think a living is, like
Yeah.
I'd really like to have a much bigger house and, like be a private
But you have a
jet, but
sweet job. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. But so,
what are you gonna, you
and
can't complain.
there aren't many sports where people make a good living. So like when people always like criticize CrossFit, I'm like, I have news for you. Like they're like, oh, these CrossFitters aren't making enough money. They deserve. I'm like, they're doing pretty well comparative. Like, there's just your football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, and that's it. And there's only even in those sports, because they're team sports. You got like a couple hundred guys on the pro level, or 1,000 guys at the most. Other than that, no one's making money. So like CrossFitters do pretty well. I look at pro surfing all the time, and it's very comparable what the top pro surfers are doing to like the top pro CrossFitters. And
Mhm.
surfing's been around as a sport for like 30, 40 years or something. And you just said like freestyle skiing, probably like those guys, they're the guys that go and make the videos, and the competitive guys don't make much money. And you guys do well.
Yeah, and I think that there's just a big drop off. And it's getting hard. Like we're trying to figure out, is there a way in the new world and the way the systems are kind of changing to reduce that disparity a little bit and create more opportunities for like a middle class of athletes. Because in the last while, there's been like a top 10 athletes that earn significantly more than everybody else
Sure.
combined.
Sure.
Like, and so it's hard to be like, all right, yeah, a lot of that's merit based, but is there ways that we can just create a deeper drop down or draw more sponsors in, or what, like, are there things that we can do to help that situation? Because it is, I've had this conversation with people before, and like, I don't know what the difference is between me and the guy in 30th place or the guy in whatever. Like, and so like, yeah, I perform better in a lot of competitions, but in terms of like training and effort and time put in, like, yeah, like these people, a lot of people work really hard,
You're a
and then
socialist.
they don't earn anything, right?
You're a
But
socialist.
yeah, I think that we just want to see there be like good opportunities where, there's, I don't know, there's chances for people to compete and earn and do whatever, or just try to grow that pie a little bit, like not necessarily keep fighting over the same amount,
Well,
but
no,
how do we bring more in? How do we bring more in
look,
for everyone, right?
we have the same problem in my business. There's 10 guys that are making over $10 million a year. That are like some of them make like 35, $40 million a year, and you just watch them and you're like, how is this happening? And then there's a whole bunch of people that probably make like a million, and then there's a bunch that make over, six figures, but not many. And then a whole bunch of guys that are like really, really funny guys that struggle, that are making $500 a week, and they fly to where they're going, and they have to like, it's just an awful existence, and they're really good. And these are the guys that I hire for my openers, and I've got to supplement what the club's paying them. I got to give them a, like buy their flight or do whatever, because,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel bad because I was there and I realized how hard it was. And everybody's like, well, that's kind of like the entrance fee. You got to pay your dues to get to where and it's like, can't we just, and it's me like kind of being a bit lefty of like, yeah, can't we give them a livable wage though? Can't we up them a little bit? And
Yeah.
you guys making $40 million a year, Seinfeld, can't you make less? Can't you make a little bit less so that these, and it's kind of like CrossFit. Like I'm sure that the Reeboks and whoever that put up the prize money, you win, you get 300,000, and then the drop off is just ridiculous. Where can it be like winner gets like 200, second gets like 100, third get, and down the line where it's I just remember when it was like winner gets 250 and everybody else you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and it's getting better. I will say it's improved, and the drop off has gotten deeper. Like the payments have gone deeper down the field in the last number of years, but there's just been there's been a lot changing with stuff like the sanctioned events that happened, and then the system revamping again. So we're just trying to make sure that some of that gets preserved, and there's lots of opportunities. Like one of the weird things in the sanctioned event world, and this is like I'm at fault for this, but there was no limitations. So, and the prize purse is were widely variable between competitions, but I could go to any number of them and compete as many times as I want. So I could go to every event that had a big prize purse and win it and just keep taking the prize money from everybody else. Whereas like some other systems have you, limited in the number of times you can compete, and where you can compete. So, like in the last season, like I went to 3 major events and collected big checks, and just like sorry sorry if you were there and you're like, fucking Vellner showing up again, like taking the money, like god damn it. And like,
but that's,
yeah,
look, that's
I
other
did
sports
that because
too.
I could, right?
There, golf's like that, and these guys go off the tour to like other events to make money that aren't sanctioned events on golf tour. And I think what all that does is increase the amount of competitions. I think what happens is people start going, hey, well, they're taking all the money. Let's create an event. And so there is more opportunity for everyone. So I think it's good
Yeah,
that you're showing up at all the events, because it's bringing more people to those events to see them. They
for
make
sure.
more
It's
money.
more visibility. But what we need is like you're saying is and what I'd said previously is like we need to create more opportunities, not necessarily keep dividing the existing ones in new ways, right? So if we want to, get more people paid out or allow more athletes to earn a living competing, if there's things that we can do as some of the maybe more recognizable names in the sport right now to bring more sponsors in that are going to create more, financial opportunities, because this sponsor comes in and they can run an event and they can front prize money, and now there's another major prize purse on the tour, and I can't do 7 events in a year, so I'm not showing up to that one. And there's like, if you can create more of those events and more of those competitions, or more just like more engagement opportunities and touch points by bringing more sponsorship in, then it's going to be better. So we've talked a bit with CrossFit about that, and they work with some media deals and things, and trying to find new creative ways to inject income in. Because and frankly, like I'm in a funny blessed situation, because I'm one of the top earners in the sport on the men's side, and I've hedged my bets fully. I have a fucking other job. So like most other athletes are really like putting their money all in on this, and then still, like you said, like then still grinding and still slugging it out for maybe a matter of years before they break through to a level where they're earning more income or are getting really cool opportunities. So it's hard, and I think that it's hard when that barrier of entry is really high, and it's like, sorry, you got to pay your dues for 3 years. Like you've got to pay to fly yourself around the world to compete, and that's really hard. So hopefully we can land on a system where there's enough opportunities to inject new people in, and there's enough opportunities that people can live and do this because it's cool and it's fun. And I've had a blast with a lot of the opportunities that I've had, and I'm glad I've done it. But I'm just like, I don't know. I'm too linear of a person to put all my money in on it. Where I'm like, I'm not going to be a CrossFit athlete when I'm 40.
Yeah.
So
Does that
I
ever
always like,
has that ever in your head when you're standing on the podium? No offense, like in Rich or Matt's standing, eye to eye with you. Get it? That was a short joke.
yeah, I've had that many times with Matt.
So, but he's there at number 1 and you're at number 2. Has it ever crossed your mind? Because you're a competitive guy, obviously, to be second best in the world. You're super competitive. Does it ever get to you where you're like, maybe if I quit my job?
I don't think I've ever really considered it. And I've had a lot of people tell me I should.
I'm
But
not.
it's one of those things that I think for me, it becomes like a responsible decision. It's lame. Like I'll fully tell you, like I'm not, and this is like I kind of feel like this is a cultural thing a little bit. I think that the US has like a big culture of like hero worship, and like, you strive to be the best, and anything less is like unacceptable. And like, we really put these heroes like way up here. And I don't think we do that as much in Canada. And like, when I look at this, I'm like, look, I'm going to be the best as I can be and do these things, but I need to set myself up to live my life and have a future and do things intelligently. When I was at school, if I took time off of school to just do CrossFit, I can't just go back to school in a professional program. I would have to start over. I'm delaying my life another 4 years. If I can just kind of battle through school and do CrossFit, I come out and great. But like now I need to keep working a little bit, or else, I went through all this education and learned all this stuff, and you don't just remember everything you learn. Like you've got to keep practicing it and keep, your mind sharp, and like keep reading and learning new things and do all this continuing education. So coming out of school, even, I knew like, look, I can probably train a bit more, compete a bit more, work part-time, but I need to continue to work. It's not an option for me to completely step away, because then if I compete as an athlete for another 5 years and I haven't done anything for that period of time, I'm going to come back, and then someone comes into the office and puts their trust in me to help them get healthy, or to treat them the way that they should be. And I need to be extremely up to date on all my information. And it's just like you lose a step, like you lose your comfort and your confidence, and you forget things. So for me, it's just like I have to do both in order to be competent and comfortable as a clinician, or else I'm going to have to be accepting of the fact that I'm going to need to take like an entire year to relearn a ton of stuff before I go back.
You don't have to justify it to me. I let you say that because I think the listener needs to know that, but I'm sitting here listening going, yeah, totally makes sense to me, because I'm a person of like, I think life's about balance, at least for me. And I never believe in putting all my eggs in one basket, because I know a lot of super, super successful people who are successful at one thing and one thing only. And because of it, all their other aspects of their life kind of pay for it. And, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're the best at this, but that's only going to last a few years of like this long life. And when that's over, you've destroyed every other part of your life through that. And you're as good as you get. I mean, you're at the top. And so you've figured out how to do that while doing something, which is remarkable. It's like when you have like a Bo Jackson or something that can do 2 sports or 3 sports. It's so impressive that you can do all of them. And there are these, but what if I ever, and I get that American, sense of, because I lived in Europe for a while, and when I was a comedian, I'd go to the comedy clubs and we'd all get paid the same. And I was like, wait, we're getting paid the same? And they're like, yeah. And it was a lot of money. And I was like, but it's the same. Like, what if you're better? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, where do I go from here now? I'm doing all this. And they're like, what do you mean? You're getting paid to perform. Like, you're the luckiest person in the world. And it was so American of me. I was like, I want to make more. I want to be better. I want to be and it's just how they raise you in America. Like, we are number one. We are number one.
Right. And it's not to say that I don't have that, right? Like I totally, and whenever I'm on a competition floor, like absolutely, that's my focus is 100% on trying to perform the best that I can. But, I think you rob yourself of a lot of things by becoming singularly focused on things like that, especially when they're based on outcome. Like there's a lot of things you have to learn to appreciate that, there's a lot of things playing a role in that. I can't control what other people are doing. Luck plays a bit of a role. Sure. Of like, like how I get to where I am now. There's a lot of random decisions that I made in my life, and like being at the right place at the right time to a certain degree got me to where I am. Right. So I think that I also need to do something else in order to still enjoy doing CrossFit at the level I am. Cause it's, excessive. Of course it is. It's like, I catch myself every day thinking that, like, what the hell am I doing? And I still like, it's fun because I can still kind of like turn away from it.
How many hours a day do you train?
Right now, I don't know, say like 3 to 4 most days.
Okay.
I'm probably like, right now, most days I'll do like 2 sessions. I might have like 3 days a week with 2 sessions, 2 days a week of 1 session. And they're anywhere from like, a session will be anywhere from like 90 minutes to 2.5 hours. So, yeah, it's like, it depends, but probably 4 hours, 5 on like a long day. But it's like, I've hedged my bets in a way that like, I know in sport, like if I got hurt or something happens, I'm not dead in the water, right? Like
Right.
sporting careers end, and
Sure.
it's going to be awesome. And I'm happy that I've done a lot of it, but then I still get to have another, 30
Yeah.
year career doing
How
something
how
else
how many
that I enjoy, right?
how many years have you been competitive at CrossFit where you've been like, uh, you know,
I would say since 2014.
2014?
Well, after 2014 regionals, probably.
Wow. That's a long run already. Like you're crushing it. So that's
See, but
7
it's
years.
like it's funny because the way the sports kind of changed now, it's really not even that long. Like I look at that and I'm like, yeah, okay, it feels long to me for sure. But there's people who are still in it, who were in it many years before me, and haven't, climbed the ladder to where I've gotten to either. And there's a lot of people putting a lot of time in. And yeah, there's people who've been to the games, 10, 11 years. Like I think I've been 7, 6.
And
I don't know.
now there are people that,
No, 5.
and there are these young guys now that show up and like a year later and that's like any sport, like, you'll have guys making the NFL or NBA, guys coming out of high school and going right into the NBA or their senior year, like 18 years old, because they just have the physical talent to do it. And then if they can stick with it, they can have the longevity that someone like you has, but they can also burn out. So there's no saying they're going to last.
Yeah, that's a cool. I'm interested to see what happens in that whole thing. I've always thought that the teenage division is like a breeding ground for that burnout. And I've been like waiting to see if like anyone's gonna prove that hypothesis wrong.
See, I think the opposite. I think the opposite.
See, and I know a lot of people think that. And in fact, they've been saying it ever since the teen division got invented. They were like, "Oh, these are the next generation. They're going to be the best." And so far, we've seen one athlete do it.
Two
of all the years of teen. No, just Haley Adams.
What about the two guys didn't come out of the teen division, Samuel and
they won the teen. I think there was a couple of them that won the teen division several times and then aged into the open category and got hurt or burnt out or something like, but they kind of just, and I think that also that's not fair to say that it's because of that. Cause I think that when you age out of teen division, you also are kind of graduating high school. Maybe they're going to university. They're doing something else. I think there's been some athletes who did that and then they went on to play like a university sport, which is sweet. And like, I think the old generation, my generation, did the opposite, where we grew up and we played sports at a high level. And then CrossFit was like a second life of sport.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So it's cool. There is a little bit of the opposite where you get people with this general physical preparedness that CrossFit's given them, and they compete a career as a teen, and then they go to university and they're like, fuck it, I'm going to play like volleyball. And then they just do, and they're good at it because they have developed a lot of different skills.
But I think
that's cool.
I think a lot of people do things. I ran track in college and no one came to my track events. No one. Like there'd be like 2 people in my university track meets. Like literally 2. Like there was no one there. And my high school meets had more people than my university. And it was depressing. And, it was all this work. I did get a scholarship out of it, but I didn't get anything. Like there was no fame or fortune. Whereas if CrossFit existed,
a scholarship in the U.S. is maybe fortune.
Yeah, but I didn't get a full scholarship. But what I'm saying, the point I'm trying to make is going into CrossFit is more profitable and more fame and fortune when it comes to today's like fame and fortune. Like nobody ever watches track ever. Like you could put it on YouTube or
until the Olympics.
Exactly. Whereas people are watching everybody's Instagram and there's this niche world. So you might go into it as a high schooler and be like, wow, I found this whole world where I have this success that drives me to be more successful. And at that young age, with having that like high testosterone and having that flexibility and having that, just ability to recover, that we might start seeing it get younger and younger with the way the body's able to recover. And it's hard because there's 2 arguments too, because you see some of you guys that just keep getting better and better as you get older because of almost like like some kind of wisdom or this strength that you build or this efficiency. Um, but
It's intimidation. It's what it is. It's just that then when people are lining up next to you, they're like, "Oh fuck," and you're like, "Yeah, oh fuck is right."
I've been here 7 years, fucker. It's it's the same way with what I do, and I always use analogies of comedy to CrossFit because it's what I know is comedy. And there are guys that I know that are so young and so funny, like brilliantly funny, but they'll come on a show with me, and it's like, I've done this for 25 years, dude. I'm gonna wipe up the floor with you. Like, you can go have your best set. I know every corner, every possible outcome, everything that someone in the audience can do. If there's something wrong with the mic, I got this. I have the experience that I can crush you. And
and that it's similar to what it is for, I think, the older athletes. Is there's just like, you're not going to surprise them, and just the pure amount of volume that they've accumulated and the ways that they've done it. It's like, cool, I know what this combination feels like. I know what this feels like. I know what to expect, and you don't get caught out doing something dumb. Like, some people get sucked into doing something based on what other people do, but if the more times you've been there, you're just like, it's almost like a confidence bordering on arrogance, where you're like, you might come out slow in a certain context and a couple other guys go fast, and like, you don't just think, that they're stupid and that you're doing it right. And then like, it's cool because in like 2 rounds I'm going to catch them because they're all going to blow up, and then when they do, you're just like, yeah, fuck.
Well, I hate,
but it's a little bit of just that knowledge that comes with time. So exact same thing.
I hate to give my friend Hunter McIntyre any credit ever, because I just enjoy insulting him constantly. But when I watched him in the games, and everybody loved watching him fail. I mean, he made it through the first event, second event he failed out of, and everybody loved to go blah blah blah. And I said it still didn't prove his argument, because his argument was that he was fit, like he's one of the fittest people in the world, and that he could go into the sport. Because that event, and I gave Castro shit for it. That event he lost out of experience and out of wisdom and out of like, he gamed that completely wrong. Whereas it wasn't that he didn't have the ability, he just was stupid. And
I'll think if I recall, I think he got crushed on the handstand walk. It's just I don't think he's a very proficient handstand walker. So, I think skill played a bit of a role.
No, he actually is a decent handstand walker.
Oh yeah,
and that he would have, if he hadn't have flown through.
The push press.
He went through the push press and the rowing as fast as he could. And I even texted him right before, because I was with him right there, and I left. I had to go do a gig in like another state. And when I saw that, I said, just take it easy on the push presses, because it's too light of weight. It's going to make you go through fast. You're going to fly through it, and then you're going to burn out on the handstand walk. And he did exactly that. And, it's weird. I knew that because one time they bet me during the show that I couldn't beat these like 60 plus women with like their weight. And I'm like, I'll do it in half their time. And it was like, they were using like 65 pounds and I was doing like snatches with like this really low weight. And I started flying, and all of a sudden it was like this weird, it was a whole new stimulus. And so Hunter said to me, he goes, I was in a slow heat and I was so worried about getting cut that I had to race against guys outside of the next heat. And I was like, well, there goes, like, that's something that you wouldn't have done. You would have been like, I know where I am. I know.
But I think it's something to be aware of. Like, he's right that, you have to be aware that, okay, I'm in heat 1 of 2, and it's just like, there's the next 50 guys that are taking the field are all going to be faster than these 50 guys. So it's like, it's not enough to just be like, okay, in this heat, like you should try to be fast. But I'll be honest, like, Hunter is a very fit dude. And I think that the thing that I didn't like about his whole parade that he put on that year was that his whole statement was grounded in the fact that, CrossFit gives this like fittest on earth title but he says they don't let anybody in. It's all their people and they don't let anybody in.
Well,
you literally pay $20 and you sign up for the Open. Everybody can do it. And he literally does it every year. He just doesn't advance. He doesn't qualify because he wasn't as good as the other people in front of him. So it's like, dude, what do you mean? You're just saying that you paid the price to play. You didn't get past the first cut. And now you're mad you didn't get past the first cut because you're seeing the test that they did at the end. And you're saying, oh, I'm good at that one.
Yeah.
But the point is that you have to be good at all of them.
I agree with you.
So it's just like, I was like, dude, you can't. And he was like going on podcasts being like, they don't let anybody in. It's all their people. Blah, blah. And it was like, no, dude, they do. And you play every year and you just don't get far.
Hunter is of the generation that watched Donald Trump. And they saw the way that, like, if you yell the loudest, you yell the longest, you can get what you want. And he's very
it's annoying that he did.
He's very good at publicity. He's very good. He told me, there's a good friend of mine, Bert Kreischer, who always he's a comedian, and he's a comedian, never wears a shirt, and he's really fat, and he talks about he'll go from fat to skinny. He's like Oprah. He'll be like fat, then skinny, fat, then skinny. And he always talks about it. Like he's obsessed with his weight, but he like runs marathons or runs like 6 miles a day every day and talks about how he's this Mickey Mantle gene where he can party all night and then be like amazing at working out. And somebody like posted something because he'd done CrossFit a bunch of times, and they were like, if you're so good, why don't you compete against Eddie Ift and do, comedians do the CrossFit? Because, they're like, Eddie's a lot fitter than you. And like, you claim to be this like amazingly fit and they're like, he'll destroy you. And Bert's a buddy of mine. Like, we've toured together. We've hung out. We go to dinner together. We ski together. And he won't even address it. And I just let it go. And Hunter saw it and he goes, you got to hammer him. And I was like, that's not my style. And Hunter's like, no. I mean, he's like, you got to be relentless. He's like, you got to get everybody on Instagram will love this. And I'm like, that's not what I do. And I'm like, that's your MO, Hunter. That's not what I do.
It's off brand.
He doesn't get that. And I'm like, I really feel ugly about that. But I let it go a little bit because then fans started kind of like, I see on all Bert's tweets and all his Instagrams, he'll post something like, hey, went out for a 6 mile run. And they're like, why don't you sign up for the CrossFit Open? Eddie Ift will crush you. And he never once addressed.
This is the thing. It's great when you don't have to do it. When other people are going to do it for you, stay out of it.
You know what? I put a couple little digs in because Bert is that guy.
Just like that comment every time someone comments like, do the Open against Eddie Ift, he'll fucking crush you. Just little like on that comment, and that's all it takes.
Well, what bothers me about him is he's one of those guys that'll tell you a story that we've all done, but he's so good at storytelling. He's like a really funny guy, and he'll tell a story to you guys like, oh my God, you're never going to believe this. I went to the movies the other day and we watched the movie and we got candy and popcorn and we came home, and you're like, we've all fucking done that. Like everyone, you just told a story that everyone's done. And he does it about like exercise and shit to me. And I'm like, he'll be like, I ran a marathon. And I'm like, I've run like 3 marathons on back to. I ran one drunk, I've done all these things. You're telling me, and then and it's almost like he doesn't acknowledge that I do it, and I'm like,
right.
And so now that the fans are doing it to him, I'm like, yeah, keep hammering.
Yeah, get him in there, get in the ring.
But I feel dirty because I feel like I'm being like Hunter, and I'm just like, I don't want to be this guy, but. And I hate the Open. I don't even like to do it, but I would do it just to beat Bert.
Yeah, nobody likes the Open.
It's awful.
But it's yeah. But like I said, to Hunter's credit, he's super fit. And frankly, a lot of the stuff we do at the game, he's very good at. He just, because of what he does, like with OCR and things like that, and even just like he's bigger.
Yeah, he's too tall.
He's just not good at certain things.
No, yeah.
Like he's not a good squatter. His gymnastics and weightlifting skills aren't great. And so, like, that's where he gets beat. But, like, pure fitness and work capacity, yeah, he's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I know he's doing that high rock stuff now, and he's, like, rocking that world.
Yeah.
And, like, I've had people message me and be like, you should go race Hunter in high rocks. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, he'll fucking crush me.
I'm staying
in my lane on that one.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
Okay, so
I'm like taller than
I was gonna
most
say
CrossFitters,
you've got like 3 inches
but
on everybody.
yeah,
You
and I'm long. I'm like very long in the arms.
I had
But
that's my problem. I'm long arm, long leg. I'm like the worst build ever for CrossFit.
yeah, exactly. It takes me forever to do a squat, like
Yeah,
forever to
yeah.
do a handstand push-up.
Same thing.
But
Same thing. What I had Ryan Hall on the show last week. He was the American record holder of the marathon, and he was asking me how
oof.
fast. Yeah, he ran a 2:05 at Boston.
Oh.
And now he's like he's like into bodybuilding. He retired.
Oh,
and
interesting.
he's just getting like huge, and he's squatting like 500 pounds and more than 500. I think he does like 530 or something.
Really?
I told him to try CrossFit, and he goes, "Nah, I've looked at that. I hate it." He was like, "I don't like it at all." He's like, "I like to bodybuild."
See, I find that so interesting. I mean, that's moving from one extreme to another, right? Like that's what's kind of appealing almost to me about CrossFit is that I'm a little ADD and I like to have different things to do every day.
Sure.
If all I was doing every day was like run and then run again and then run this speed and then run this speed and then run some more, it would get old to me and I would have a hard time with it. But the little bit of variability keeps me interested, and it's nice to have like general fitness where I'm like, cool, yeah, I can lift heavy stuff, I can climb, I can jump, I can run, like I can do whatever. But like bodybuild, going from being like having a runner's body to be like the only way you run a 2:05 marathon is like you weigh fucking 90 pounds.
He was 127 or something, I think. 127, 130 pounds. Like 5'10", 5 like, and he's
like, it's crazy.
And now he's he's
to do that and go into bodybuilding.
He's now like 195 or something. And
see, like, I actually think that's super cool. It's like to be like, okay, I did everything I wanted to do in this year. Like, that's all right. And then just be like, I'm done with it. That says an interesting thing about the person where it's like, it's not about the running. He's just kind of an extreme personality.
That's exactly how he put it. He was like, this is a new endeavor. I did what I did there, and I'm trying to see what I can. He's like, I'm like a science experiment on myself. I want to see what I can do here. But I said it was so interesting because I think, after talking to Hinshaw one time explaining how CrossFit is an endurance sport, how the winner is the guy who basically wins all the events over the days, that's able to handle, like 5 days or 4 days, whatever it is. I was like, you have this endurance, because he was saying he's all, slow twitch and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, but I have a feeling that you'd be pretty good with that kind of ability, with how strong you've gotten. And I don't mean like your ability, like your level. I mean, but like he could walk into a gym and pretty much smoke anyone in CrossFit after like a couple months of it. And
look, anyone who's got that kind of attitude and personality like he does, clearly, if he wanted to do it, he'd be great at it.
Yeah. But
like that's the only thing is he's just got to decide if he wants to do it or not. And if he doesn't, then he's like, he's not going to be interested and he won't.
He wanted to know. He said to me, what do you think these CrossFitters run the mile in? And I said, I don't know. I said, I think probably the top guys, if they like went out and really tried to do their fastest mile, I don't know. I was guessing about 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're probably about right.
Yeah.
I think you're in the right realm. They tested at an event a little while ago and nobody ran under 5, I don't think, at that event. But people have. Like, I think you would have specialists in there who could run under, I'm sure. But like most of the overall top guys are probably going to be in that like just over 5
Yeah.
range.
That's still fast as shit.
It's fast. Yeah. And I mean, like there was something going around recently with like guys were trying to squat 500 pounds and run a 5-minute mile.
I had the guy on the show.
So like, yeah, so that's like, that's the thing. The difference is like, you got to be able to do that run and then also be able to do a lot of other shit. So yeah, I mean, it's not, I know by a guy's standards who runs a 2:05 marathon, that's probably slow as hell, but
he's run, he's 38 now, and he was telling me, marathons, he's like, it's something you really have to train for or it really goes away. Like he was saying he did 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents, which is like a competition or not a competition, thing people do. And he's like, I was like, what were you running the marathons? And he's like, my fastest was like 3:30 and my slowest was like 5:30. And I was like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
I was
That was
expecting
like a completion test.
yeah, I was expecting, and he goes, I didn't train for it. He goes, I just went out and did it. I mean, here's a guy who can not train and go run a 3:30 marathon, but I still would expect a guy that runs a 2:05 marathon to go out and run like 2:30. And he was just saying, not at the weight he's at. He's like, no, never again at this weight.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't understand. Every pound matters.
Oh, the impact, man. Totally.
At that. And that's I never thought about that when I ran. Like, just, I was 170 pounds, and I'm like, how are these guys? When I would try to go on run, I'm like, why can't I run like like you can't? So for you guys to do 5-minute miles is really good.
It's like a truck, man. Yeah. You're a truck rolling down the track. Like, I weigh like 195 pounds. Like, I'm not light. And so it's hard on your like ankles, knees, hips, stuff like that. And so we have to be a bit mindful of that in training. Like, if it's time to test and I got to run a mile, like, I'll do that, no problem. But if you're trying to run,
hold on one second. Can you hear my dog? Can you hear my dog barking? Do you hear her?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to let her out. She's both of them.
I thought that was just the rats in the trap.
No, it's my dog being annoyed. She's mad. Hold on. What are you barking about? What's wrong? Come on, you two. What do you two want? Lay down. Go lie down. I've got 2 dogs, and my wife decided to get a third for my daughter. She's getting her puppy next week. We bought it already.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a full house.
That's so. I've got 2 kids
and 2 kids.
Dogs.
You said,
yeah.
Ooh.
It's just like
I got 1 dog.
He's
kind of just he's laying on the bed. He's chill right now.
I used to be 1 dog, 1 guy, 1 apartment. I had my own little house in Venice, and life was good. My dog, I have a cattle dog, and they're like the smartest, best. Like, she was never on a leash. I'd get in my car, she'd jump through the window and sit down. I could tell her to go. I'd be at the coffee shop like 5 blocks away, and I'd be like, somebody like, hey, you want to go surf? And I'm like, yeah, Noosa, go home. She would run home and sit at the door, and
oh man,
yeah. And then all hell broke loose. I got married and kids and dogs, and now no one does anything they're supposed to, and life's chaotic at all times.
Different.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm glad to hear though that like you think about this shit too, because this is stuff that I ponder all the time about, like, who could do what. Like, my favorite thing is, what if CrossFitters were to fight, like MMA stuff, like fist, just like there's just a bar brawl, who would win? And
it's kind of funny because there's things like, that's one I feel like I've been asked that in like a lightning round questionnaire thing a few times, but there's important things you got to remember. Some of them
know how to fight,
have like legitimate fighting experience, right? So you're like, all right, you can maybe you pick your battles a little bit. And there's a lot of guys who like either like wrestled in school or whatever, right? And then other than that, if you remove those ones, there's a bunch of small guys.
Yeah, that's true.
So like now all of a sudden it pays off to be one of the bigger guys in the field again, right? Like very rare advantages we get, but I think fisticuffs might be up there.
Well, Rogan said to me one time, we were talking, I think it was the first time I was ever on Rogan's show. He goes, I was talking about CrossFit, and he was talking about being an alpha male, and he made a really good point. He goes, like, he's like, why do you do CrossFit? And I was like, I just like to be like as fit as possible. And he's like, why don't you do jiu-jitsu? He's like, you'll get fit doing that. And I was like, it's not my thing. And he's like, think about it, like in the survival mode. And he's like, if you took your top CrossFitter and put him up against the worst guy in my jiu-jitsu gym in a fight, the jiu-jitsu guy's going to win. And I was like, yeah, but what if they have to climb a mountain to get away from the bad guy and pick up logs and throw them at them and carry, and he's like, every fight goes to the ground, and he's like, the jiu-jitsu, you're going to win. Like, if it's survival to the end, he's like,
yeah. So it's a black and white take though. Like, that's basically saying survival depends only on individual encounters, like of fighting one-on-one. and doesn't depend on anything like gathering, surviving, like moving. So I don't know.
That was my
Like,
point too.
I think that there's other arguments that could be made, and like, I don't know, it doesn't need to be fucking zero sum like that. Like, like fucking.
It was pretty funny, and he did.
It's so, and I get it, and I get why Joe goes there, but it's just like, why the fuck, like, why is it all of a sudden like, well, my buddy can beat up your buddy? It's just like, what the fuck?
Because
like, how old are
because I've met a bunch of these guys in my life that are really, really like super successful, like Joe Rogan, like John Mayer was like this, where it's weird. They're so successful and yet they think survival all the time. Like one time I saw Rogan outside a comedy club and he had this like, I don't know what kind of truck it was. It was like a Toyota Land Cruiser or something. And it had the snorkel. It had, and it was built by Icon. And I was like, what is this thing? And he's like, this is my survival truck. You know, like this is for when it goes down. And kind of when the pandemic first hit, he was talking, he's like, see, like almost like the, you know, the, what do they call the guy? The preppers. Like it can happen. It can happen, and
it's counterproductive. It's like cool, sweet truck. What are you going to run out of gas in like 2 hours? It's like, I'm going to hop in my fucking hybrid here, and I'm going to out survive you. And it's like, oh, sweet. So you are really sick at jiu-jitsu in a country where literally everyone owns many firearms. It's like, fucking good luck. I'd rather be able to run fast.
But if you talk to Rogan, that's why he like does archery. He shoots guns. And that was, Mayer said that to me once. I was talking about like every once in a while you get like a rowdy fan or something that's just like drunk or annoying. Yeah, I've had some.
You got to be able to.
I've had some shitty things happen. I was one time walking down the street in Sydney, Australia, and a guy recognized me from TV and just put me in a headlock and dragged me into a pizza shop right there and was like showing his friends. He's like, hey, fucking guys, look at this fucking con I found. Look who I got. I got him in the fuck. And most of his buddies still didn't know who I was. And so it was just, I'm like, dude, let me go. And he's like, hey, fucking you funny cunt, you know. And I'm like, and I'm starting to get a little panicky. Like this guy's so drunk and I'm like, you know, my adrenaline's like, I kind of want to fight him out of like fear. And,
right.
And I was just like totally inequipped to like, if this were to go off, his friends are going to jump. Like, I'm just not in a good situation right now. And I was telling, John Mayer is a big stand-up comedy fan and hangs out at the comedy clubs. And I was telling him this story and he was like, yeah, that's why I take Krav Maga. He's like, because, you know, being a celebrity like him, he could get in a situation where it could get ugly and to take care of himself. So I think those guys at that level think about survival a lot. Like,
yeah. And I like I said, I understand it fundamentally. I just think it's kind of funny. Like I have a hard time picturing, I don't know, a situation where someone gets like overtly violent with John Mayer. Like, I feel like his vibe is quite down and it doesn't seem like the direction that interaction is going to go. But you're right. You never know. And obviously there's like crazy people around.
When you do a meet and greet after a show there, and this is just me at my small level, some weird things happen. And he was just showing me some things. He's like, every once in a while, you know, you get that guy that just grabs you weird or something. And you just want to be able to put your hand on their elbow and just push and let them know that you're in control of the situation. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, like, so, you know, and there's just, I've had being a comedian and a bit offensive. I've been rushed on stage a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And,
totally.
And I grew up in Pittsburgh where everybody just punches you in the face. So I'm like,
hey, I hear you. I was going to say that. I was like, I don't think it's not good to be the one who's like aggressive. Like I'd rather be the pacifist and like not try to do that. But also kind of carry in your back pocket that like, hey, look, I'm not afraid to punch you or get punched. And this is like, if things escalate to here, like, yeah, I'll feed you one. It's gonna be like forehead right.
Yeah, I'm going for whatever's gonna hurt the most, and I'm gonna play dirty, and I'm just like, I don't know how to fight, so I have fought a million times, and I'm out of desperation. This is a true story. I can't believe I'm gonna tell this on the show, but I was in Manchester,
Let's do
England,
it.
at a club called the Frog and Bucket in probably like 2002 or something. And I'm on stage, and it was weird. It was like during Christmas time, and like all the men for some reason were up in the balcony, and all the women. It might have been like some kind of private party, and all the women were down below, and the women were like all drunk and like chanting at me like I thought I was getting raped, and I was like, all right, I'll take it, like this is gonna be good. The women were like,
did you just dive off the top?
I was having a good time, and then from up above, and it's in Liverpool, Manchester, England, where they're kind of tough, like
Yeah.
It was, and it's a rough part of town where this place is, and there's the guys are just, there's one guy that just won't shut up on stage or up above in the balcony, and he's just ruining the show. And I used to just jokingly every once in a while with like a big guy or something or a tough, I'd go, I'm going to kill you. Just like, and it was like funny, little guy, I'm 5'10".
Yeah.
And like, I'd joke with him a little bit, and then I'd go, I'll kill you. And then everybody laughs, and he goes like, he comes back rather than laugh like, oh, I get it, you're just being ironic, and goes, oh yeah, mate, I'm gonna fucking smash you, cunt, and I'm like, all right, fuck you, like, and I start to turn my little like Pittsburgh guy is like, yeah, all right, come on.
Yeah.
And I think he's not getting up in front of a crowd of people. And he gets up and starts walking, and I look, and he's like a bigger dude, but also just like, not bigger, but like rough. Like,
yeah, it looks a little unstable. Like he might actually get on
this
stage.
guy does this once or twice a week, and I don't. And I was like, I called out the wrong one. And like, this guy's probably been in jail 2 or 3 times kind of thing. And I'm like, fuck. And I see him.
Like, how you just like build a backstory, like right as he's coming down. You're like,
I mean, this
like,
probably
I know
happened.
exactly who this guy is.
This happened in 3 seconds, and like all these things start going through your head. So I see him walking, and he's going across, and I know the stairs come down right to the stage. This stage in particular was a high stage, which comedians hate. We hate a high stage because it just doesn't allow you to perform well. But at this point in my head, I'm like, I have high ground. This is good. This is really good, because he's got to climb up on the stage. But I look to the bouncers, because I've been in this situation before, and just, it's best to just get the bouncers. Like, they see this happening. They get between us. I don't want to ruin the show. Like, we're just going to stop this situation. So I look at the bouncers, and I knew they were in the back, and they're no longer there. And I'm like, are these guys like on a smoke break? Like, what happened? I'm on my own. And I'm like, and the whole crowd is starting to chant, fight, 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 fight. Like,
oh man,
no one's on my side.
Dark real fast in there.
And my heart the adrenaline's just going. And in my head, I think I'm about to get the beating of a lifetime. And there's a weird
on
thing.
Stage, no less.
Yeah. And there's a weird thing in comedy. And my old roommate, it was this guy named Jim Jeffries, who did get like punched on stage in Manchester.
Yeah.
And this was prior to that. So I wasn't thinking about it, but like, that made his career. So I was like, this would have been great if it was on film and everything. I'm sitting there going, I can't like take a beating, and I've got like one chance here, and I've got to delay the inevitable, whatever is happening. So it occurs to me, they used to say in comedy, if a man charges the stage, you have every right to defend yourself. Like, you're in like legally, you're in this position where you can defend yourself. So I'm like, if he's coming, and he's coming fast, this is all happening in a second. He's coming down the stairs really fast, like charging me. And I'm like, I'm just gonna, as he gets close to the stage, I got one chance to kick him in the head as hard as I can, as he, like, chest, head area, as hard as I can, to stop me from dying, and like knock this fucker out. And I'm like, that's my, first shot is your best shot. And I'm like, this is what I got. So I like get in the stance ready to fight. And he's coming down the stairs, and out of the kitchen, a bouncer comes with a forearm and just lays him out, just takes him by the neck and clotheslines him and stops him from getting to me. And it was just like, I was just like, oh my God. I was ready to just get in the
You,
ugliest.
you say anything afterwards?
Uh,
Like, oh, I was about to kick that guy's head off his shoulders.
Yeah, because people listening to this probably think I'm an animal, but I've seen it happen. And when that person comes from the crowd to attack, it's scary as fuck. It's so intense. And,
It's kind of an interesting thing too, right? Because it's like it's bystander effect. Like people would just sort of be like frozen. Like surely this guy isn't gonna just jump on the stage and attack
yeah,
him. And then they kind of like it's whose job is it to intervene, and then nobody intervenes.
they
So
do. They
what was the
do.
bouncer doing in the kitchen?
They do intervene. I've watched these. They intervene. If you like go online and see like heckler punches, they intervene after the first couple throws. Like Tony Blauer, I had from CrossFit Striking on the show, and he said every street fight or something like the average length of a street fight is like 10 seconds. And you think to yourself, like, but that's like an eternity when you're in it. And that's time enough to get hit 2 or 3 times really bad. And so I was just like, save yourself, and this is your only chance. And I, probably if it came out on film, I would look horrible. Like you just kicked a man in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
hey, it's like this is like I don't know. It's you or him. I don't know. What are you gonna do?
So this is a long way to get to who do you think you could beat up in CrossFit? Who do you think would be the toughest?
I think I could beat up most of those guys. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I got punched a lot growing up in Alberta.
You know why I asked you this? Because I think you could. I think you could pretty much beat them all up.
I think I've got a little bit more grit than a lot of those guys do, but we'll see. Like I said, I got to worry about some guys like Chandler Smith and like guys like that who have legitimate combat experience.
Yeah,
and like also were wrestlers and are also like
that's true. I never thought of that.
Like there's a little bit of that out there that I think, and this is another reason for the average listener why you shouldn't just like get in fights. I feel like 10 years ago it was a little bit less of a big deal. But now it's like, fuck it, there's so many people with like martial arts experience. You just don't know who you're going to get. And I honestly, I played lacrosse for a lot of years too, box lacrosse at a pretty high level. And like, I remember my first few years, one of my first years playing juniors, and then one of my first years playing senior ball, I like saw massacre fights on the floor where I was just like, this doesn't make any fucking, like, I was like, what the fuck did I just see? Like, this just person's a mess. And I just decided, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to fight in this league. Cause I just don't know. I don't know who I've got on the other side. And like fights in lacrosse too, are like, they basically fight like hockey fights where people just grab each other and don't have any defense and just punch. But instead of being on skates where you can just kind of fall down and end the fight, you're just standing on your feet.
Yeah.
So people just get wrecked. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm cool. Like, I'm just never, you don't know who you got on the other side. Some guys
and Canadians
moonlighting in some kickboxing. And
I think you guys, it's weird. We have more people, way more people. So I think America is going to come out on top when it's like the best fighters again. But generally speaking, I think Canadians are way tougher. Like in my experience in spending time there to time here, you guys, like especially the middle areas, like it's like people really are farm boys. Like I said about CrossFit gyms. When I go to gyms, the workouts are harder in Canada. The guys just seem tougher. Like I could go in a gym in America and I stink at CrossFit, and I'll be in the top 10% sometimes in a class, where Canada, I'm like in the bottom 30%. I'm just watching all these dudes smoke me, and it's just like they're all like hockey player types that are just, rough and tough. So I'd imagine your lacrosse, in America, it's such like a prep school Ivy League sport that I wouldn't see the fighting in that as much as Canada. It's just like, oh yeah, I play hockey and I play lacrosse. So I take my fighting skills from hockey and I bring it to lacrosse.
Lacrosse is different here too, because we play indoor, which is a bit of a different game. But no, I appreciate it. I'm very flattered. You think we're also tough. Yeah. I'm going to blush, but
yeah, there's
some hardy boys up here, and hardy men and women up in Canada, especially like you said, that some of that middle range where you just get the treacherous winters, and I don't know, you can't live there unless you got something special.
Yeah. It's more cowboyish. Like everybody shows up in jeans and a flannel and their boots, and they take their boots off to put their CrossFit shoes on. It's just a rougher kind of person. It's like, where in America, it's going to be a more pampered life. And so they're just not going to have that toughness. Like, I find a lot of the guys I've interviewed that are Navy SEALs or friends of mine that are SEALs, they're always like farm boys, and they just had it rough their whole life, and they were able to experience that toughness and those are the guys. I don't want to fight one of those. Yeah, I don't want to fight anyone ever again in my whole life, ever.
Right? Yeah,
ever,
I hear you.
Ever. But like back in the day, I remember one time I was in a bar in Whistler, and I was with my buddy when I was just a smart ass, like before I even started stand up, and I'm probably talking to some girl that I shouldn't have, and I said I was playing with my Canadian money, and I go, oh, it's like Monopoly money. Look at it. And this guy goes to me, yeah, it's just as good as your fucking money too. And I went, oh, fuck you, something like that. And then the next thing I know, I'm fighting with this dude, and then I see like the whole hockey team show up behind him, and they're gonna beat me up. And I looked at it like, oh my God, you're a different breed. Like, this is gonna be a beating I've never gotten. like this is just. And I'm looking at my buddy who's skis for Boston College, and he's just like never fought in his life, and I'm like, you're gonna be no help. Like, we gotta find a back door. Like, we have to. We're in this nightclub in Whistler Village, and I'm just like, how do we get out of here without dying? Like, this is, and so I somehow we avoided getting beaten up that night, but I'm just lucky I never had to tangle with Canadians.
I appreciate your instincts, though. Always make the joke. Make the joke and take the punch. That's what I always did.
Really?
I was just like, hands down, make the joke, and then I'd just eat one. I'd be like, yeah, all right, I probably deserve that. And there'd be like a fight that erupts around you.
Well, yeah, I always had the thing of sizing them up. I'd size them up, and I'm like, if I think I can take them, then I'll go. But if I didn't think I could take them, then I go the comedic route, where I'm like, maybe I can use my mouth to escape this one, because I hated the loss. I hate it. I've been in some, and bar brawl. I've been in a bunch of bar brawls. They're kind of fun because you're not.
It's like
you're not going to one-on-one with someone.
Things just start flying everywhere.
Yeah, it's Cannonball Run. It's like I've been in a couple of those, and they're actually funny, and until somebody gets hit with a glass or something. But the one-on-ones, I actually said to a guy one time, he was like, I'm going to fucking rip your hair. We're going to go outside. And I was like, no, you're not. He's like, what? I'm like, no, you're not. And he was way bigger than me. He goes, I'm going to take you outside. I'm going to kick your ass. I go, you're not going to kick my ass. And he's like, oh, yeah, why? I'm like, because I am going to roll in the fetal position as soon as I get out there, and I'm going to urinate all over myself. And I think it's going to be impossible for you to beat up a man that rolls in the fetal position. And the guy just starts laughing, and he's like, let me buy you a beer. And it was like,
there you go. Diffuse.
Like, woo, got out of that one. So diffuse works, but I don't know. I think Fraser could be pretty tough.
I think he's a tough dude. He's got 2 Canadian parents. So, I mean, Fraser's probably pretty tough. I think there's some tough guys in there. I think anybody who I think a lot of CrossFit is just taking an ass kicking and coming back for more.
Yep.
So, I think if everybody's got the mindset where they might not stay down, but I like to think that my long arms will finally be of use. I can just kind of hang around the perimeter.
I don't know about Fikowski. I don't think Fikowski could fight. I'm going to say it right here. Like
he's either going to be terrible, or he's going to somehow he's going to do some like karate, like something that's like old school, and he's going to be like a fucking double black belt, and he's just going to do some weird Karate Kid move, and you're going to be shocked and put to the ground in no time. It will be, and there's nothing in between. It's one extreme or the other. He's either like completely can't even coordinate his hands, or he's like surgical with some sort of weird head kick.
You're so right. We had
Yeah,
we had a kid like that in high school that nobody would ever thought he was tough. He gave me the beating of a lifetime, like out of nowhere. And I was like bullying him, and all of a sudden it was like, "Where'd you learn how to do that?"
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
he could be that. There's a bunch of them. I never would have thought of Chandler Smith. Yeah, that's a good one to think of.
he'd be a tough guy. There's a few people too that are like,
Sweeney.
I don't know, like
Sweeney. I wouldn't want to mess with.
see, Sweeney's a guy that is eating a few punches.
Yeah,
Like he's for sure, his lifestyle and the mouth he's got on him, she's for sure eating a few punches.
yeah.
But there's some like I feel like a lot of the guys, like you look at even a guy like BKG, like guy's built like a bird, but
Yeah.
like he's like a Icelandic redneck. Like he's just hilarious.
I feel like they're too peaceful over there. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like now and then I check on his like social media and it's him just doing like squats listening to death metal. I'm like, holy fuck. This guy is like, he's got the Icelandic just raw going on in the back. Like this guy's got demons. I like it. So
Well, I went to I got to change the subject after this, but I went to a CrossFit gym somewhere in Denmark or Norway or something, and I couldn't find it. I find it on like Google Maps, and I go into the gym, and it's like a Globo gym, and I'm like, "Hey, you guys have CrossFit here?" And they're like, "Sort of," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, you got to go outside, go across the field, and it's in that building back there." And I like look out the window, and this looks like a burned down building with like graffiti on it, and I'm like, "Oh, that's the CrossFit gym." They're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Are they lying to me?" And I'm like, "Am I in a bad neighborhood? What's going on?" And so I like walk across these train tracks through this field and into this building. I walk in, and they're playing the Rocky soundtrack. And there's like four Scandinavian dudes without their shirts on, just going like Fran into Helen into like nonstop.
just nonsense.
No one says hello to me. No one checks me in. No one does. I just start working out. I've never like paid or gone to anyone. No one acknowledges my presence. Like they work out around me, and they're going like they're not in it. They're all like doing their own thing, and then I just left, and I was like, that was officially my weirdest CrossFit experience ever. The fact that like it wasn't just, it was like the whole Rocky soundtrack. And they were working out like we were in the. Remember when Rocky works out in the snow? And
Yeah. Oh yeah. His like Siberian montage.
That's what I felt like I was in. And to change the subject, a couple things that I've always wanted to talk to you about: the cargo net.
Oh yeah. What about it?
Scary?
One of my favorite moments. Yeah. I feel like it was we used that cargo net, the same net the year before. And I was like, there's an easy way to kind of go over and bounce off the net and come out. But that year we had the weight vests on. So you're like, we didn't really get to test it with the weight vests on.
Uh-huh.
So your timing's a little different. And I like fucking miscalculated that one. But it was funny because I remember coming over the top and I was right behind Matt. And I saw him kind of like just bail as I was turning over the top. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, nice, like I can pass him. And then I fucking like swing off the net, and I was gonna like bounce off the net, and as I swung out, just dropped to my feet.
Didn't your ankle get caught? Didn't your foot get
as I was bouncing out, my one foot hooked in the mesh, and I was like already letting go with my hands, and I was kind of like, oh, like, and immediately felt my foot go, and I was like, cool. So I just like pitched back, and I was falling down, and I remember just kind of being like reaching and then being like, don't put your hand down because you'll break your arm.
Yeah.
So I'd like reached back and then went, huh, and then like kind of just went like that and took it like right on the side. And it was not great. I feel like I knocked the wind out of myself pretty good. The next couple obstacles were not that hard, so I just went really slow. And then as I got my breath back, I finished the obstacle course, and it was like the run back and some rope climbs and the dummy carry. And I remember on the run back, I was like still in the kind of top 3, I think there. And I could like totally feel like I could taste that like metal taste in my mouth.
Wow.
My mouth was just like, I had just like blood and sand in my mouth. And I was like, yeah, okay, we're going to have to deal with this. but like not for another few minutes, because I just like get to the finish line and then you can do whatever you need to do. So I got through the event, and then the finish line was like, I think we ran through the blue. It was like the green turf into the blue and then into the white. And then I was like sitting in the white after the workout was done, and I just like kind of spat out, like felt like a big kind of loogie, and it was just like all red.
Ah.
And like right on like the white finish line.
What was bleeding?
Fuck. So I did a little like sideline check on myself, because I wasn't sure if I like bit something in my mouth. Basically, blood coming out of your mouth is either coming from in your mouth or it's coming from like in your body.
That's what I'd be afraid of.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I did a little with just a water bottle, like rinsed my mouth out until it was clear, and then like held the water in my mouth for like, 20 seconds and spit it out to see if it's red or not. And it wasn't. But if I cough and spit, then it's all blood. So I was like, fuck, it's like from my lungs, most likely. So I had to go, like, I went back and I ended up telling one of the medical guys that I'd worked with a couple of years prior when I hurt myself at regionals, and kind of just did the check, and the medical team came in, and it ended up kind of being much ado about nothing. Like it wasn't nothing, I guess. Like I had to go get a CT done at the hospital, because I basically was like,
you could have punctured your lung or something.
I was bleeding internally, clearly.
Yeah.
Like they did the sideline assessment out in the warm-up area, and they're like, no, like you're clearly bleeding from inside. So we need to like see how bad the damage is before we let you go breathe heavy and get your heart rate back up super high in another event. Like we can't let you do that unless we have it cleared. And it kind of, as I kind of had like Fran lung right at the end of that workout. So as the time went on, I stopped like having to kind of cough. And then I was like, look, no problem. And they're like, no, dude, not no problem. Like we have to get you to go to the hospital and whatever. So I had we were kind of up against the timeline, because we had like the next workout briefing in a couple hours, and they wanted me to go to the hospital. And I was like, look, if I miss the next event, then I'm officially out of the competition. And even at that point, I was in like fourth or something. And I was like, look, I'm not fucking, like, I don't want to withdraw right now. I'll fucking go to the hospital if I have to, but we need to make sure I'm back for this next event. So we went and did it, and like we got an image done, and we came back, and I had to have a meeting with like the head doc, and they let me compete, but I fully had like lung contusion, like blood in my lungs.
Oh, so it really did. Wow.
Yeah, on my left side. So he basically was like, hey, look, I'm not gonna like force you to withdraw. You seem fine right now. The next event was a short one too. It was like the clean and jerk sprint. So there's like, look, we'll watch you. We'll make sure it's fine. You need to, if anything feels weird in the next while, or if you start to like cough blood again, you're out. And he's kind of like, don't be a hero about it, because like you clearly damaged your organs, and we're worried that, like if there's any bleeding from those blood vessels, like your heart starts beating fast, and it seems fine now, but you get your heart rate up to fucking 200, and then something ruptures more.
Jeez.
Don't be a hero. Like if you start feeling faint or feeling weird, or you get like any symptoms, like you need to tell us, and then we need to take you out of the competition. So I was like, sure, righto. And then I just like never told anybody about anything. But it didn't end up being bad. Like I did the next event, was fine. The last two events of that day were not really high heart rate. And then the first one the following day was like the swim, paddle, run or something like that.
Uh-huh.
It was like a longer, like 30-minute workout that was kind of higher heart rate, long sustained effort. So I kind of went to bed that night thinking like, fuck, I feel okay. I'm not sure if it's adrenaline or what. Like there's a good chance I wake up tomorrow and feel like I got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And I've got to do a longer event tomorrow, which was like a bigger question mark. Like, can I get through this one without feeling bad or having any issues?
Right.
And it ended up being okay. We went through it, and I didn't like do anything dumb in that event, but ended up feeling okay. So yeah, there was some damage, but not enough to make a huge difference. Just enough to scare me, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that bad. I mean, I knew watching it, and I think it's weird that and it happens in my business too. Again, another analogy is like, you've done all these great things and all these, podiumed and all, been so successful. And yet it's one of those things people remember, like,
Oh, totally.
like,
Yeah.
like people, I've had tons of like, not tons, but I've had a few standing ovations and really good TV shows and stuff like this. But people will be like, hey, remember that time you got hit in the face with a snowball on stage? Like, great.
Totally.
That's what you remember. It was one of those things where when I like to make fun of CrossFit, I'm like, oh, look at them put everybody in danger. But it's also like, I loved it. I love that you're doing stuff like that. And I've always wanted to go down and do the Navy SEAL. I'm trying to get Hunter to go do it and see how fast he'll do the obstacle course at the Navy SEAL one. And like,
I'll be sweet.
If he can beat those guys, because there are some guys that are so good at it. And
I think a lot of it is practice, right? It's
exactly.
Like if you give him a few runs where he irons out exactly where to go, but I think that I'm sure they get really mechanical with like every step is totally accounted for.
They do, but I look at that cargo net and I'm like, people don't understand how scary that net is, like how high it is, and how like you look at it and you're like, big deal. It's climbing up ropes and then you climb back down, and it's like you get to that top and you climb over. That's a long way down.
Well, it's funny about like how. Frankly, the reason Matt and I both fell is we were completely disrespecting the obstacle. Like we were like, we were wearing the weight vest. It's like,
big deal.
Be sure about your hand and foot placement, whatever. And we were like, nah, whatever, it's fine. And we just like sent it, right? And like that's what happens when you have a race. You any little area you feel like you can make up time, you just go for it. So we both were very much like flirting with the edge, and that's what happens, right? It's like sometimes when you're on the edge of control, you lose control. And so, it was funny. And we both Dave came and like got mad at us afterwards.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he like, not like mad, but like he came by, and I know Matt also kind of hurt his hip flexor coming down because he hung up his leg when he fell. And like Dave was basically coming by just being like, hey, are you okay? Like, why'd you do that? Like, what were you guys doing? Like, that was fucking stupid. We're just like, yeah, we know. Like, I obviously didn't try to like launch myself off the top of this thing and fall on my side. Like, yeah, I know. Like, it was funny. Like, I just remember, I hit the ground. Like, there's a judge that was by the sand, and they were like frozen. They were like, oh my God, like, do we help them? And I like scraped myself up off the ground. But yeah, it was, we got a bit of an earful for being reckless, right? And being like, you made this look really dangerous by doing that. And we're like, well, fucking sorry. And I think that there's a bit of stress there from their end when it's like a couple of their top guys take a bad spill. They're like, fuck.
So weird question. What's your relationship with Dave? And before you answer, I want to preface it with, I used to terrorize Dave on the show, and Armin and I and then I had Dave on the show and I was like, oh my God, I love him. Like I loved Castro. I had the best time with him, and I had him on probably just like a month and a half ago or something. And I had the best time talking to him, but, I loved watching you just like totally just, it was just like right back and forth. Like that's what I was like, I got to get Vellner on the show. Cause I watched you at the Hawaii trail run, and everybody's like,
right,
rah, 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 rah. And you're like, oh fuck. Like in some video I watched, you were really funny cause you're just like kind of cynical and kind of like not playing the kind of CrossFit game. And then you just like, just giving shit right back to Castro was hilarious.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I don't see eye to eye with Dave on a lot of things, but I appreciate what he's doing and like what his role is. And I think, he's given himself a certain role, and he plays it. And he does a really good job with the games and stuff like that, but he's just, I think that sometimes he gets over his skis a little bit, and so you need to kind of give him a little bit of a nudge back. And it's funny, and then you know what, like what's funny about it, and when we had that kind of back and forth, I think that it does deep down irritate him. I think that it comes from a side of like his like military background, and I think he's very much someone who has a perception of what a hierarchy is and what authority is, and he is the authority figure in the situation, and I am his
subordinate.
His subordinate. And I just don't see it that way, and
Right.
we look at it from a different perspective as athletes in the sport. We're like, we're to a certain degree, we're assets to that company.
Mm-hmm.
And, he very much, I think in a lot of ways sees us as disposable. And like, as soon as you're used up, there's going to be somebody behind you to take your place. And so I think that, this is something where in the sporting world in general, like what's the best idea, right? Like, should you buy into, marketing your characters in your sport and creating a platform for them, or should you just be more concerned about like the sport? Dave's job is the test, design the test. And he's very much like the test is the hero of the whole thing. The athletes are just there. Whereas I think in a lot of sports, the athletes are the heroes, right?
Right.
So,
well, I think that's a problem with the sport, that Dave's job is that. And then there needs to be someone like in, a lot of other sports, there's a players union and there's a rep that represents the athletes, that speaks on behalf of the athletes, that handles those kind of things. And I don't think CrossFit's ever had that, but CrossFit needs that. And I guess you guys are trying to establish that.
We've talked a bit about it, but you're right though. So part of the problem is that, it's us, like we don't have a rep, like it's us
Right.
speaking. And so it's still a very much a young sport, but I think it's funny. So I think that Dave likes to have that or create those, very polarizing situations or events because it drives views. And I think he's good at that. He likes to, create drama, create storylines so that people stay engaged, and he creates hype that way. And he loves to do it with very polarizing topics and things, right? And he just like loves to do it. And I think that when he did that one with me, I get on fine with Dave. Like I'll tell him I disagree with him to his face, and he'll whatever, and we'll chat about it. And we have no problem. But when he's like doing it on blast on the internet, like it was kind of, I think for him, he's kind of like, oh, like I think, Vellner is the kind of guy who can handle this and be fine and figure out what to do with it. He's not going to like cry about it. So, we had some fun with it back and forth, and it was just like, I get what he's doing.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he kind of, from his military background, demands respect. At the same time, even though you're in his mind disrespecting him, there's still a loyalty from him to you, because as much as you're disposable, you're also one of his guys. Because I saw him on the other end of the spectrum. I saw him kind of tell me how he thought Hunter was shitty for like the way he got in, because how much he values how hard you guys work to get in. And so it's like there's a level of like, you've made it, you're in this world, but at the same time, I get everything you're saying. I get that
it's kind of funny. Like
he's trying
to.
So
we have a funny relationship, and I think that I like to think that he'll do that sort of thing on me because I have his respect to a certain degree, right? And I do think that like I'm 100%. I'm the guy that will give feedback, and I'll criticize some things that I think merit criticism, because in my mind, the way you're going to improve this thing, improve the sport, is by listening to that stuff, right? Sure. And who knows it better than the people who are going through it. So I look at it as like, we as athletes have pretty valuable information. And if you want to mine us for that information, we can make this thing better. But I think sometimes he sits on a perch and he says like, he knows what he wants it to look like. So he assumes that everything went the way he wanted it to. And any feedback he sees as like almost like attacking criticism. And so he gets really defensive over his work, because that's what he does. And I think that sometimes he lashes out a little bit. And so he thinks like, who are you to criticize me? Right. And so he does get a little defensive over stuff. And I do think that when myself or somebody else gives him some criticism or some backlash on things, I think he takes it personally, and then he really he plays it off as like nothing bothers him. But I think those things kind of do bug him a little bit.
And I've got to be honest, it's so fun to watch, and on both sides. Like, I'm not taking sides like your side, because it is funny that you give it back, but it's fun to see just the little,
and that's why like we try to do it. Like I actually engage it, because it is kind of funny, and it's like I know it's. We have an audience, and it is fun to do. But we just like, I think that, and I think that in the last little while, it's gotten better too. I think that the way that the sport's been changing in the last couple of years, there's a little bit less of, in the past, it was very much, Dave doesn't like you. you don't get any opportunities in the sport because everything goes through
Yeah.
CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
But since things have kind of decentralized a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, there's a little less of that. So it's, in some ways, it's kind of allowed people to sort of like speak their mind a little bit.
Oh, I
And I
love
think
that.
it's gonna,
I love
I think
that
it's
because
going to be good for the sport. It's going to be good
it's
for the
great for the sport, and I saw it like that in the beginning, and I don't blame them. They kind of created this thing, and it was theirs, and it's like, how dare you tell them how to do it? But it was just growing bigger than them, and when it did grow bigger, it was like a pressure release. It was all of a sudden this pressure valve went off, and everybody, I feel like, could breathe, and there was this, you could be a little more honest. And I found it about the athletes, where even coming on the show in the beginning, guys would come on the show and they're like, I can't say anything. There was this like, it was like they were living under this communist regime that they were afraid to go back to headquarters afterwards. And,
Yeah.
and people wouldn't come on the show in the very beginning. They were so scared. And once everybody started letting go, it was like all of a sudden you started seeing personalities and seeing who people really were. And I think that made people like these people more, because everybody wasn't a robot then. Everybody had a personality,
Yeah.
and it was a lot more enjoyable to watch and find out about the athletes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And see, we feel like there's so much value in that, right? Like actually getting to see these people and learn their stories and things like that. Anyway, it's fun. Like, and Dave has his role and he plays his role,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
does a good job
yeah,
at what he does.
yeah.
And I think that whether you like it or not, he's a character in the soap opera.
Oh,
And
yep, exactly.
he's there, and I don't think he's going anywhere. So like I said, I don't necessarily agree with the way he does a lot of things, or some of the things he does, but I don't have to either, right? Like, I don't agree with a lot of things a lot of people do, but we managed to coexist.
You did that Hawaii trail run that I was talking about. How hard was it?
Yeah. It was hard. I mean, I feel like if you wanted to like run it and win it, it would be really hard.
Yeah.
I was there, and my
fun.
fiance was with me, and we actually ran it reasonably hard. But not like, competition hard.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like but you can run with some of the kids, and you can do things like, you take a stop every now and then while you're in the valley and just look around, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
The whole run is amazing. You feels like you run through like totally different ecosystems. You're in like this lush rainforest for a little bit, then it's in this very deserty area, then you're high and you're low, and so it's a really fun experience, right? And all the kids from the charity organization that are out and run and stuff is just like, it's super fun. But I think it's like 5 miles roughly. And yeah, if you ever, I don't know if you know who Cody Mooney is, but if you ever get the chance to ask him how hard it is, he'll probably be able to tell you better than me. I know he apparently the year before, I wasn't there that year, but he ran it like to win it. And he's a pretty good runner, and he like blacked himself out, was like, couldn't even like speak for like 30 minutes afterwards. And everyone's kind of like, Cody, why did you do that? Why did you go try to win the charity run and like fuck yourself up? Like, who does that? And so the year that I was there last year, he's like, everyone was asking him, kind of ribbing him, hey Cody, you gonna try to like PR this shit or what? And he's like, no man, I made that mistake last year. I'm gonna try to enjoy it. Like, it's a cool area. I'm actually just gonna like, trot it out and try to enjoy it. And then, man, as soon as the fucking horn goes off, he takes off again, and he fucking tries to win the shit again, and he just crushed himself. And yeah, I think, and there was always like a handful of pro trail runners who were there. So yeah. I think the first kind of the top 3 were legit trail runners, and then Cody was in like, he might have been 3rd or 4th or 5th or something. And yeah, we kind of finished. I think we ran it reasonably hard, and I think I finished like top 10 on the men's side, and I was kind of like running with my fiance, because most people aren't trying to like gun it.
Yeah. I just want to do it for fun. I think it looks great.
Yeah, got there, and yeah, Cody still just looks like faint, or like, what happened? Like, this morning you got up and you're like, I'm not gonna do this, and you just totally, you can't help yourself. It was so funny.
That's me with the regular CrossFit workout. I'll work in the gym and see the workout. I'll be like, I'm not. Oh my God, I'm going to pace myself in this. I don't want to die. And then halfway in, I'm like, why am I racing that soccer mom over there? Like,
right? Well, that's what's kind of good about it. But CrossFit, right, is it kind of gets you in, and it taps into something, right? But I'll tell you personally, I love when I get stuff like I get a softball that I know I don't have to work very hard on. I relish those opportunities nowadays. Yeah, it's something written in the program that's like, this is volume accumulation, like do this at 70% effort. I'm like, oh, 70% effort, fucking right. Like I might even tap it back a little bit, 65.
With saying that, what do you think you have left in you? How many years competitively?
Oh, it's funny. We talk about that pretty regularly, my partner and I. I don't know. I bet you 3 more good years.
Yeah. That's what what are you, how old right now?
Hard to say. I'm 30 right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Easily 3. Easily.
Yeah. So it's hard to say like life wise what that's going to mean. Like, could I do more? Probably. I think one of the big differences, we kind of talked about this a while back about the age stuff with the teens and things like that, and how right now people are having pretty long careers, and it's because we're getting better at this. Right. I think 10 years ago or in the like Froning, Bailey, Bridges era, those guys beat the shit out of themselves.
Yeah.
And they didn't, it was like the day after the games, you're back in the gym and you're going hard. And like, I've talked to them all about it, and they're like, yeah, no, it was like, we were dumb and we were really hard on our bodies. And now some of the guys that are successful now, you've guys like Matt and Fikowski and like Olsen, BK, me, like guys like that have been a bit smarter with how we periodize the year, and we take care of our bodies, and we have the benefit of having watched the other guys go first. Right. So now I think people who are coming in now have had even more of that benefit. So people are just smarter. Like there's no reason why men won't be able to compete until their mid 30s. Right. At a very high level and win the games. We just kind of think, like 30 is kind of like tapping out, because that's what it used to be, because people just kind of beat themselves up. But if like in the last 5 years, the top 10 athletes haven't changed that much. Like it's been the same people. And so the average age of the top 10 has just been shifting up as we get older.
Yep.
And so it's like we've learned how to do it much better. And so people will learn from us. And so, yeah, I think, to compete another few years, if I wanted to, I could maybe go longer, but it just kind of depends on.
I think right now in sports, if you see the amount of guys that are succeeding at older ages, like Kelly Slater's 49 and still one of the top surfers in the world. And that the beatings they take in surfing are unbelievable. Like to get held down by like pipeline and just get smashed off the reef and be able to get back up, paddle out, and do it again and again and again. That's unbelievable. And then you've got like Brady. I mean, he's in the Super Bowl. Like and he's the best quarterback that's ever lived. And Kelly Slater said something once interesting, I said on the podcast, where he looks at his sport of getting older as kind of like a martial art, as you become wiser. And so the older guys are the smarter ones, and they know the most. And knowing the most is an attribute to this sport. And we talked about that earlier. But
yeah, I think there's a big part of that in every sport.
Yeah. So, that I do think you can go for a long time. I just wondered what sometimes guys just are like, I'm done. I'm over it.
I think there's like a bit of a mental tap out that happens. Yeah. And man, I'd be lying if I said, the odd day, I don't just be like, man, you get on the assault bike and you're like, fuck. But it happens, right? And you like once a week, right? We're doing hard stuff, but that's why you need to periodize and just be more honest with yourself. And I think that your point about getting older and wiser is good in that regard. Like my communication with my coach has never been more free. And, she's like, hey, we need to like, you're getting up there. You need to like, we're going to dial back certain things. Like you can't be going 10 on 10 effort like every day. You can't even be doing it like 3 times a week. Like we're going to pick our days. We're who's your coach? Things. Michelle Letendre.
Oh, yeah.
She was a games athlete for years. Yeah.
She worked with James Newberry. And
yeah. And Laura and a few people. So I've been with her since 2016. But it's like those things are important. It's just like, you don't lead with the chin every single time. And like now we spend a little more time base building, like skill building, like movement pattern stuff. Like I spend more time warming up than I used to, because I'm not that elastic kid anymore. But I think that there's no reason why if you're smart and careful, people can't compete until they're mid 30s. Like I said, if people are doing it in the fucking NFL, like God.
Are you excited that the Open's less this year?
Yeah, it means less too.
Yeah.
Um, which is okay. It's kind of funny because they're actually paying the winner of the Open this year for the first time, which is annoying when I won it last year and it was worth $0, and now it's like 15 grand. But whatever.
Castro did that to
But
you.
yeah, right. Did me dirty on that one. But that's the only real incentive in the Open now. On like the higher level elite athlete level, like these perennial games athletes, to finish top 10 in the Open is not any kind of an issue. And then the next stage is another online competition, so you don't get a heat advantage or anything. So you just have to go through the motions in the Open, and make sure you finish top 10% in your continent. So like I've got to be top 10% in North America, which means like what do I need to be top like 20,000 in
Wow.
North America?
That's
Like
pretty easy. You want
like
me
it should.
you want me to sign up and do it for you?
Yeah, right. Like it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be
I
an
couldn't finish
issue.
top. I can't finish top 20% and 60 plus women. Uh,
Oh, come on.
but I'll beat Bert.
But
I will beat Bert.
there you go. That's all you need. But
Uh,
yeah, so it basically just means that we, again, with the periodizing, like there's less emphasis on the Open now, so your training will look different. Like we'll do the Open. I'm not going to peak for it. I'm going to be training for other things during that. And then the next stage is going to be when you have to execute a little better, because that one, I think your placing will actually give you a heat advantage for the next stage after that. So, we'll see how it plays out, because we've seen this on paper, but we haven't, done the rep yet. So we'll see what we learn as the stuff takes shape. And I think there's still a few little changes that are probably coming down the pipe.
yeah, well, with the pandemic and everything, it's like anything kind of goes now. And
Yeah.
I mean, I always think it'll be kind of like these years will be the asterisk years. Not taking away from anybody that wins or what they do, but it's not, it's a little out of the ordinary and whatever. But I mean, it just brings kind of more excitement, at least I get bored of shit. So I'm kind of excited to see how it goes this year. But
Yeah, it'll be nice to have something.
thanks for doing the show. I appreciate it. Are you as good a skier as your brother?
Oh, no, probably not. Not anymore anyway. He doesn't, so he's an interesting guy. He's pretty fearless. He was a trampolinist for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And he was he was like a silver medalist in his world age group. And then he was a freestyle skier for years, and he was trying to qualify for the Olympics.
When you
He
say
missed.
freestyle, was he doing like the
So he
big
did aerial skiing, which is like the big jump where they do
Oh,
the like triple
yeah,
flip and land, just the one
yeah,
jump.
yeah.
So that's what he did.
That's like more of a
Um,
gymnast than a skier, though.
a
That
lot, a lot of them were. So that's how he got into it. Is he got recruited from gymnastics because it was like for the Vancouver Olympics, they were trying to pump up Canada's teams, so
uh-huh.
they had all kinds of recruitment strategies. So he got recruited to do that, and then he did, a number of years on the national team doing that, and then he got a couple concussions and he quit.
Yep.
And then he was a Cirque du Soleil performer for
Wow.
like 5 years after that, and then now he's a stuntman.
Wow.
So
Oh, because
he's got a
Vancouver's
pretty
got all the
interesting
movies. Yeah.
resume.
No, but is he a really good skier too, or was it just
Yeah, he
skiing
is.
was like superfluous?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's a really good skier. We skied a ton growing up. My dad's a huge skier, so we skied a lot growing up, and like I haven't been getting many runs in the last number of years, and it kind of sucks just because I don't know. I feel like I'm skiing like an old person every now and then now, just because I don't want to hurt myself in January, February, right before the Open.
Yeah, and that's your prime time.
But yeah, so we'll see. I'll get back to it hopefully once I get a little bit.
What mountain up there did you grow up skiing on?
We skied a lot in Fernie.
Okay.
My family still has a place there, so we still go like for Christmas, New Year's, except for this year. But yeah, we kind of go. I just don't get many days in. Like I'll go there and get maybe 5 days in a year.
Does your brother like chuck like double backflips and stuff?
Yeah, not doubles not in like the mountains, but he does a lot of cool tricks. His big one that he likes doing is this step kick front flip that he does like almost on flat ground, where he'll just like go off like the tiniest little bump and just chuck a little front flip. It's pretty sweet.
I hate those guys.
Yeah, like I said, he's just like he's very skilled. He's a very skilled acrobat. He's got no fear. more skills than he does sense. That's for sure.
Well, it's funny. They
But
have now in the down here in the United States, we have Camp Woodward. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I
And
don't know what it is.
it started out as a BMX camp in Lancaster, like near Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and it was a gymnastics camp. And I guess I don't know the history of it, but I assume this is what happened. Like the owner, maybe one of his kids did BMX, so he built a BMX track there. And then he was like, "Hey, we're going to open it up to boys now. We'll have the girls come in and do gymnastics, and the boys will do BMX." And then as what do they call it? Adventure sports, or what do they call them? Action sports. Action sports started getting bigger and bigger. Kids started coming there, and then the guys from like the action sports started taking the gymnastics, and they would do the gymnastics and then apply the gymnastics to their action sports. And then they opened one in Southern California. Then they opened one in Tahoe. Then they opened one at Copper Mountain in Colorado. And my daughter, who's 6, we're going to be sending her to it. It's like she's going for like gymnastics, but she's also going to do skateboarding and, they've skiing and they have all these things. So these kids now, like today's kid learns like the proprioception of their body, like how to like throw themselves and land and fall properly, like that we never learned. So it's just the progression of those. Like I grew up mogul skiing and like doing competitions, and the airs we were doing to the airs they're doing. It's like, what alien world are you guys from now? And it's so not fair because we didn't have the trampolines and learn how to do these ridiculous things that they're doing now, that I just like when I go skiing, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm that old man now that like won't even do a helicopter anymore. Like I'm like, no, I'm not taking any risks.
Yeah, we definitely. I mean, I was a gymnast also growing up for like, I don't know what, 12 years, 13 years. And my at our gym club, we were getting a lot of freestyle skiers who come in for drop-ins always.
Mm-hmm.
Like I coached drop-in classes all the time. And I remember that being like kind of that was just like, 2006, 2007, 2008. Like that was when there was a lot more of that shift to people just coming and doing their kind of cross training like that.
Yeah.
And like all those sports now, those guys are like, they're learning their acrobatics and they're learning good acrobatics. And it's sweet that kids are doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's almost like, and I like that context of it because gymnastics is really sweet, but that sport's got a lot of baggage. And like, it's a really, really good developmental sport.
That's what I always say.
Really good for body awareness, really good at teaching, flexibility, strength, like everything. But it is at a competitive level, high level competitive level, it's really rough on you. So it's cool to kind of have it made into maybe a little more fun context with like the action sports and stuff, and give people that same, like that's the best education you get in gymnastics is like, how do you use your body? How do you fall? How do you not hurt yourself?
Well, the parkour has done that too with it. And I always make fun with Dusty Highland when he comes on the show. I always talk about like gymnastics is such a manly sport, but the pointing of the toes and the white pants, like pussified it. It made it this thing. Like if you look, because when I was at track at Pitt, we only had like 2 male gymnasts on our whole gymnastics team. And when we would go to the weight room, they were like stronger than the wrestlers, than everyone. They were the toughest guys in the weight room, like stronger than anyone. And yet there was almost this like disrespect towards them. Like that's not a sport. That's kind of like this feminine girls sport. And it's like, well, let's break it down. These guys are way more badass than any of us. They do more dangerous shit and they are stronger than any of us. All we're doing is running down a track. These guys are throwing themselves around in the air. And I swear to God, I believe that if they would take out the white pants and the pointing of the toes and then the this at the end, like the ta-da, that it could be this sport of like, holy shit. Like people should watch gymnastics, like tough guys that play football and hockey and stuff, and watch gymnastics and go, fuck, these guys are like it's insanity.
Hey, look, you don't have to tell me. I grew up as a gymnast in like central Alberta. Like I know you get it's hard times.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that performance sport gets though. Like a sport where you're judged, when it's like,
that is a lot to do.
It's a sport that's aesthetic in nature. Like, yes, the acrobatics is crazy, but like the way you are scored is on the difficulty of your movements and how good you make them look. So it is an aesthetic sport. It's a performance sport. So it's almost like sport and art, right? So it's funny that, yeah, there's components of it that are like that, and you have to do it. But the movements are super hard and super cool. And it's funny, like, yeah, I got ribbed a lot growing up about gymnastics, but like everybody loves to see you do a backflip on the ground or like do whatever. Like people are envious of the skills that you have.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I'd kill to have
cool,
that. I would kill to have those.
It's a cool sport.
It is a really cool sport.
Thing.
But you said that the performance end of it, like the fact that it's an artistic performance, but so are action sports, and everybody looks at that as it's so daredevilish. But so is gymnastics. It's just as like to get up there on the rings or on the uneven bars or whatever and do those the shit they do is ridiculous. And
yeah, I think that there's not a lot. I do think it's one of those sports that everybody watches at the Olympics, but there's not coverage of it for the rest of the next 4 years. And it's one that everybody tunes in and they're like, oh shit, that was awesome.
Okay. So my thing is, I swear to God, change them out of those white pants, those pointy little sock pants that they wear or whatever, the straps, the stirrups on the bottom. And you put them in like,
leather, just like head to toe.
No,
leather.
Just like the shorts you wear in CrossFit. And people are going to be like, no, this is cool shit, man. Like it's the pants. The pants have ruined the sport. They look like a jockey without the boots on. I'm telling you, I think we can make gymnastics one of the top sports because it's just like an action sports, but action guys are wearing baggy jeans, baggy pants and, stickers on their helmets and stuff. And the guys in the singlet and the white pants going, ta-da, at the end. Stop the ta-da. You don't have
to. The things that make people uncomfortable,
You don't have to land and go like this. It's just such a. What you just did is the hardest, coolest thing I've ever seen, and then you end it with this.
Yeah, and you lost me.
Yeah, it's like a jazz hand, and I don't get why that has to be part of it.
I don't know, tradition maybe.
But I'm putting my son in it. I'm going to make my son do gymnastics. I did my daughter do it. I think it's just the best. I think
it's a great sport. Yeah. It's, again, I think it's one of the best foundational sports you can do, I think. And obviously,
look what it's done for you. Yeah,
I understand my bias, but yeah, totally. And I mean, I played a lot of different sports, right? And I think that it never hurt me in any other sport. It only ever kind of benefited me.
Did you when you this year at the games? I know because of circumstances you weren't there, but did you do any of the games workouts just to see how you would have done?
No, I actually tore my groin like 3 weeks before the first part.
Okay.
So I was like, I did that and kind of scraped through it. But then I've still been rehabbing kind of since then, knowing that the Open wasn't until March. Like I just was kind of playing the long game. And some of them actually looked really cool, but you can't really, one of the cool parts of the games is a lot of them are really hard to replicate, right? Like they did the workout with the thrusters and the burpees over the thing and then running up and down the various parts of the hill, but you can't really replicate that.
No, but I wanted to see about the handstand hold. How long do you think you could do it?
Oh, I did that in stage one. I didn't do very well in it. I think I was like 6th or 7th or something. I just
wait, wasn't that a games workout though?
It was the first stage though. So I was at the first one. It was the online one. At the second part, they did a distance where they did like, I don't know, football field length, I think.
Oh, it was was that the race?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the race. And then the one for time was just the handstand hold static. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't do great at that.
Really?
But yeah, I didn't. The workout right before it was a lot of overhead squats, and I don't know if I was just like a little off. It was annoying. I kept kind of screwing up with like very little. I kept doing like a minute 20, and then I would like fall and be like, all right, like I can do more than that, and then I would take a little rest and I'd do it again and do like a minute 19, and then come down and be like, fuck. And I did like 4. You only had a 20-minute window, and I think I did 4 or 5 times, like the same time within 3 seconds or something. And I just like, It was one of those ones, bad execution. I
Because
just
it was,
couldn't put it together.
we were talking about, I think we did a contest on the show of like guess the times, and everybody was so far off, and they had just like these high expectations. And
Oh yeah.
Dusty Highland, I think, was like, these guys need to realize no one's coming in and with like times like that. It's so hard. And he's like, I think he might have said it, or somebody said, the women will beat the men too. And this is one of those things where you're going to see the women.
My guess was that I was like 90 seconds. You need to do 90 seconds to be a top time. And then I was right. And I just couldn't end up doing it.
People were guessing like 8 minutes. And I'm like,
oh, what?
Yeah. And I was like, you guys are insane.
If it was like against the wall, then yeah.
8 minutes, you think against
like
that's
I've done 10. I've
Wow.
done 10 before when I was in gymnastics, so my legs weighed significantly less. But just as like a conditioning exercise, doing timed holds on the wall. But it's the balance goes out the window, like because of just like how you have to use your wrists and everything to balance. Like your forearms start to get really tired and things like that. So that's what, like, we had to stay in a 4 foot by 4 foot square, and that was what killed most people. Is, you could step to stay up, but then you're stepping out of the box and then you're out.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of the thing, is as you get tired,
Dave Castro.
No, that was a good test. That was a good one. I think the kind of thing that we've done a lot of walking, and people are great at walking now, right? So it was cool to see. I would have preferred if it was like dead hold without any stepping, but you were allowed to step as long as you stayed in the box. So that's where, like, I could do a dead hold much better than most people would. But people, if they have really good shoulder endurance, like, they can just stand there and shuffle. And I don't have like the best overhead endurance.
I'm gonna armchair.
Some of those guys are really good.
I'm gonna armchair. Like, I am no one to criticize you guys because you're in another world that I never have been in or will be in. But I still think, generally speaking, your swimming sucks. All of you. Like, not all of you, but most CrossFitters still, after all these years, have not developed good strokes. I've seen a few. I criticized and talked about this in the games. The two people that won the swim event, were Tia and Samuel Quant, were the only two people bilateral breathing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, guys. You guys have figured out how to do everything. Like, after all these years and all this training, you're so good at everything. And swimming, you still haven't, like, it's not up to the level. And when I'm critiquing and saying you suck, it's not at the level of your weightlifting, your gymnastics, your endurance, your speed. Everything else is so good that I just feel like swimming, for some reason, you guys aren't. And maybe it's just the density of, like, how.
Yeah, I think it's a really different. It's a different stimulus too. Like, having to control breathing like that is not something you do as much in any other movement. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It might be a little bit of that. I think it's one of those things that people who have swimming experience are the ones who are good swimmers. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that's hard to learn as an adult. In any level. But it's I think the general level has gotten much higher, but I agree that, like, maybe the ceiling of what we've done is not.
Yeah. I just would have expected you guys, like, how much CrossFitters are perfectionists and really hard workers. And I just would have seen the level of swimming get high. And I still see choppy strokes, like, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I know everybody.
I don't know if the bilateral breathing thing is any indication, though. When you only have a field of 10 people to look at as your sample size, and most of them, based on the tests that got them there, are not swimmers. I don't know if that's a good litmus test. Like, I know there's some guys that I've competed against who are water polo players who are great swimmers, but they swim a head up free, and they're a really good swimmer and they swim fast, but they swim head up. And you would watch that and be like, what a shitty swimmer, but it'll kick the shit out of you.
Yeah. I mean, I was at an ocean lifeguard, and we had two competition swimmers on our, like, we competed, and our two competition swimmers, one was national champion for Syracuse and the other was a top water polo player. And, the swimmer crushed the water polo player, but the water polo player was good because we were in open water, and it's a whole different world. Like, just recently, the Los Angeles County lifeguard competition. I had 2 guys come to my house that were Penn State swimmers for, really good competitive swim program, Division I. And they're like, hey, we want to try out for lifeguards. And I was like, oh, you guys are going to have no problem. And I sent them to my neighbor who's the lieutenant. And I was like, take care of these guys. They're going to smoke everybody. These guys are on this top team, and neither of them made it. And I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, open water, dude, waves and chop. And it's a different world. He's like, it's 2 different sports. And he's like, these guys. So you do have that advantage as a water polo player of that head out. But I don't know. I just saw Tia and Samuel both do it, and they both happened to win. And it just seemed
Noah's a good swimmer.
Noah is a good swimmer,
he got crushed in that event. He's like a perennial top 5 in every swim event swimmer. In a field of 40, and he in a field of 5 took like 3rd or 4th.
Well, I think
the swimming was a very small portion of that workout.
Well, I was just going to say,
I think the bike made a bigger difference. The bike swim combo is what made it.
Well, that was my point, is that getting off the bike and into the water, that your breathing pattern changed, that the people that had the ability to do the bilateral breathing allowed them to lower their heart rate during the swim.
Yeah.
Whereas the people that were going quick breaths, kind of in that hyperventilating mode, and I just saw it, and I saw it right away, and I'm like, why isn't everybody else doing this? Why are these the only 2 people that are,
I feel like knowing what I would have probably done quick breaths, and just because you're like, the swim's not that far, and the swim was still kind of a sprint. So, and because each section that you did was only like a 2-minute effort or something like that, or a little over a 2-minute effort. So knowing that, I don't know if my priority would have been lowering my heart rate.
Yeah.
So,
I don't
know. And again, like I wasn't there.
Right. I was just trying to figure it out, and I was like, but I've just, all the swimming, like when I watch the Madison swims, and I'm just.
Yeah. And see that we swim more open water than pool.
Right.
So, that's, like you said, a little different, but no, and I agree with you. Like, it's not the best. And I think that the reason is because it's such a small portion of the test. If we've got to divide our time look at it, like the games is usually like 15 events, say.
Right.
If I've got to divide my time to be good at 15 tests, and I know only one of them is ever going to be swimming, what's a better use of your time?
Yeah, good point.
And maybe it's as simple as that, is that more people are spending time. If I know I go to the games and there's always 4 events that are going to have running in it, there's only ever one that has swimming in it, if I need to work on one of those things, like, I'm going to run.
It's funny.
I think that there's a bit of that, right?
I had Samuel Kwan on the show like a week before the games, and I said, he was like, oh, sorry, I was late. I was just at swim practice, or, doing swim training. And I was like, where are you going to swim on the ranch?
Yeah.
And he's like,
well, and he should have been running. He got his ass kicked in the running.
Oh, did he?
Well, and I mean, there was the thruster workout with like those short runs. He did great out. He got second. And the hill run, I think he got second as well. But,
that hill
run
was hilarious.
But the trail run, Sam was like 5th by like 10 minutes.
Oh wow, I think
he not only like took last, but he wasn't even close to 4th.
Did he go into the turnaround point at a good time and then maybe got psyched out?
No, he was last at the turn, and then he was last by even farther at the finish, which is just like, frankly, like if I was him, I might have done the same thing. Like, I think that all of the long time domain events, he didn't do well at. He did really good at the fast stuff. And there was a lot of those, and he fucking took his wins, and it was sweet. But whenever there was something long, he got crushed, and he just kind of fucking took it on the chin.
Yeah.
And like, they made that like 100% effort rule, but like, who's going to look at you and be like, you're not trying? So I don't know. Like he might've done the come around after lap 1 and been like, they're like, oh, you have another lap. And he's like, yeah, okay. So he just like did the second lap, and who knows if he just ran it like 80% or 70%. And he's just like came across still looking tired. So like, what are you going to not give him the points? Like,
I would have gamed it like that too. When I was in university, we won first we would run cross country. I was a 110-meter high hurdler. Like, I wasn't even good at
Okay.
the 400. I don't like to go farther. Like, I like the 55 meters. I like to run for 7 seconds and then go sleep for a whole day. I don't like anything long. And they would take us all and make us run cross country at the beginning of the year. We were running track, but they pretended like we were doing cross country so that the NCAA rules, they wouldn't know that we were training year round, because you're not allowed to by NCAA rules. So in order to do that, we had to run one cross country meet, and they would take us all, and we would all the sprinters 1 meet a year would go to a real cross country meet and run it, like this 6-mile run through the woods. And it's like me, and I was the only white guy on the team. I was the only white sprinter on the team. I always say I was the only guy in the shower with the bathing suit on too. But we would just it was just so funny to see all these like lanky little skinny white guys, and then I was the smallest guy, but all these big jacked black dudes.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are they here right now? And then the race would start and we would walk it. I mean, we literally, when we'd get to the woods, we'd just start walking and we'd be like, fuck this shit. Fuck this 6 miles. And there'd always be the one guy who would race. I remember his name, Franz Jobson, this Jamaican sprinter, and he did well. But the rest of us were all like, later, dude.
Nah,
we're walking this one in. So I think, Samuel, I would have done the same thing if you knew you weren't.
Well, and like I said, I don't know, but if I was in last by a reasonable margin going into that turn, and I knew there's no way I'm catching that next
Save
person,
yourself.
I'm not gonna break my neck to do it. Like that. So, and then the next few days he did very well, and then the next events. And that, in terms of volume, I think that trail run really takes a lot out of you. So who knows? Maybe that's actually a really good strategy and ended up panning out for him. But I know maybe he should have been running more than swimming. Although he won the swim event, so whatever. Dude,
this has been awesome talking to you. I've had such a good time. There's so many guys lately that I've had really fun conversations. I hate to say what I don't like, but there's so many guys that I get on with that just sit there and talk about this is what I do. This is what I'd like to express myself to people and help them with their health. And I'm like, just shut up and let's talk about some fun, cool shit. And it's been fun. And nobody owns me, and I don't I'm not beholden to any of my sponsors or any CrossFit, so I can talk about whatever the fuck I want. And I love when I have somebody come on and just shoot the shit. And this has been awesome to just do that and not have to listen to a motivational speech or why what you're doing is bigger than it's so often I'm like,
I hear you. I'm too much. I don't know.
Well,
I'm too practical. I'm too much of a realist.
I saw you in that video of the Kauai trail run. I'm like, I gotta have this guy on. He's so fun. And then you're butting heads with Castro. I fucking loved it. So, it's been awesome. I appreciate it very much. And I guess good luck. And what do you got? 2 more weeks before this thing, or what do we have? Is it March 11th or February 11th?
March 11th. Yeah. So we
11th.
got a little while. Still.
6 weeks.
We got another. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear that, Bert Kreischer?
Yeah, here we go.
He'll never do it. He won't even acknowledge it, which is making me mad. He'll text me about other shit, but if I put nothing.
You know what you can do now? There's to sign up for the Open, they have a thing now where you can gift it. You can sign someone else up.
Done.
And it'll you pay their $20 and it sends them a link, and then they just have to fill out their information. So you could just kind of passive aggressively send them the whatever. I don't know if it goes through email or if it gives you a text link or something. Yeah. You can just sort of sign him up and create his thing and just plug him in.
My complaint is if I was Kevin Hart famous, he would do it in a heartbeat. He would do it so quickly. So it's more of an insult of where I stand in the business that he's saying this won't get me enough publicity.
Yeah, it's not worth it for me.
Yeah. And that's what's pissing me off, because I'm like, you don't realize Bert, because he's all about, commercial and being big and making lots of money. He's got 2 TV shows now, and he doesn't realize how many people CrossFit. And I'm like, there will be 300,000 people across the world that are watching you do this that like then become fans of yours because you put your big fat belly, took the leap into this.
He could make it funny. He could have some fun with it for sure too. But hey,
well, I'd
you can
scale
only
it
do
for
what you can do.
I'd let
Get
him.
in.
I'd let him do the 60 plus women, and I'd do the 50 plus women.
There's an at-home version now too this year.
Yeah,
you can do the like no equipment at-home version, which is probably just going to be hilarious. Like probably a lot of burpees.
Have you seen?
I'm sure I'll have fun with that.
I don't know who you follow on Instagram, but James Newberry's stuck in quarantine.
Yeah, because he just came back from all his bobsledding stuff.
Yeah, and I just keep writing to him every day. I'm like, dude, have you lost? You look like you're losing your mind.
he put one video up the other day. I showed my fiance. I thought it was so fucking funny because he just like he's been doing like
7 minutes of burpees.
Whatever. Yeah, or like he does like the long videos. It'll be like a 10-minute video, and he does either some stretching or like a burpee workout or something. And he does like this kind of longer form post where he's talking to the camera and things. And he does one where he basically like turns the camera on and he's kind of like looking at it confused, and it's like a full minute of dead air of him just like he kind of just looks a little out of it. And James has got his big dreadlocks and he's just there with like no shirt on and his dreadlocks, and he kind of just looks like a little stoned and out of it. I was like, fuck, James, what is going on in quarantine, buddy? Are you okay? It was so funny to me. I couldn't believe it. And then it was like a 10-minute video, and the first minute was just straight up nothing. It's like him like looking at the camera kind of weird. And I was like, holy, do you not know this is on? Like, and then you didn't edit it, you just put it up like, oh,
it's kind of a jail sentence. You're in a room, the same room people don't know. I have buddies that have been in quarantine there. Like they go to Australia.
Yeah.
And my friend went to go visit his dad who was sick, and they put him in, and he said he didn't even have a window that could open, and he's in this room, and they serve your food. That's everyone. They take your key away. You can't go in or out. You get arrested if you leave the room. So you're in a jail cell. It's just a nice one, and they deliver you good food. That's the only difference. So it's 2 weeks of prison. And but James has had, and I wrote to him the other day, and I was like, hey, you've got enough equipment in there to start an affiliate. Like, he keeps having more and more shit delivered. I'm waiting for the squat rack to show up any day now. Like he's got a rower. And I'm like, how great. Like, imagine if you're quarantined, you're like below him. You're like, oh, I'm going to get 2 weeks of peace. I'm just going to relax.
Oh yeah. Even just the jump, like the tapping from doing burpees, like jumping, like, oh man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. He's driving some people crazy.
But I told him too.
Yeah, I love James. That would be rough. Good for them though. I actually it's good that they're doing that because they've got a good handle of things down in Australia. So
no, we're doing it really well in America too. We've totally have. I think we've beat COVID here.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Successfully ignored it out of existence. You guys are like this meth lab under us. So we're just like, holy fuck.
And I feel like Americans are like, hey, it's our country. We can do what we want. And they're like, and we're just going to keep spreading it to the rest of the world.
Yeah, we're like, okay, it's fine, but just like don't come up here. Just don't. No, it's been crazy. You guys it's been quite it's like a reality TV is what it feels like. I've never been more glued to like following politics and news and everything like that.
It was a reality show.
And it was like, it was like unbelievable. It was like watching reality
Trump,
TV or like watching a soap opera.
The most ironic thing ever is that Trump came into office trying to stop illegal aliens coming into our country, and what he did was he turned us into the aliens that no other country would let in.
Yeah.
Like that is the weirdest thing to me, like how ironic that is. Like his whole thing was, we're not letting anybody in here. And then it's like, okay, great. All you accomplished is we're not allowed to go anywhere now. Nobody wants us. Thank you. Mexico's
building a wall.
Yeah.
No, it's been pretty wild. I'm glad things are starting to kind of take shape though. And it's I don't know. I think there's still a little bit of a road ahead before things are like normal. And I don't know, like my partner's a family doctor and I work in a clinic and things like that. So we're generally pretty careful and
Yeah.
we don't want to travel because we get high exposure,
Right.
right? Like I don't want to unknowingly bring it anywhere. So we live pretty carefully and like I get it if certain people's lives are not the same as ours, but I'm hoping that, you know, we can kind of do things guilt free sometime soon, you know, even by the summer I'd be happy,
I think
where you like
I think
you can do
summer.
stuff and not have it like hanging in the back of your head. Like, you know, it's all good.
My daughter just showed up with In-N-Out.
Ooh, nice work.
Thanks, Izzy.
Kids aren't so bad.
No, not at all. All right. Hey, well, thank you very much for doing the show. They can, you know, everybody knows where to find you. I don't need to plug. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything going on important or?
No, not really. Stay
Okay.
sane. I think it's Bell Let's Talk right now, so mental health's really important.
Yeah, okay.
So reach out to people, call someone.
Yeah, truly, that is true, and it's
especially
a big
places if you're like James and you're stuck in quarantine. You know, it's real thing. A lot of loneliness and isolation these days. So
yeah. And so check out Patrick's Instagram, and good luck this year with the Open and everything. I'm sure you don't need it, but and I'm sure we'll see you in the games this year. So I'll be rooting for you. And thanks for doing the show. I appreciate it. It's awesome.
It's my pleasure, man. I'll appreciate the good luck.
This is a long one. This
hurts to have
one of the longest ones we've ever done.
Yeah,
that's how much fun I had talking to you.
We'll see how much we cut it then.
All right. I'll see you later, dude.
See you later.
All right.
Have fun with your family.
Bye.
Bye.
Say bye, Iz.